I mean, maybe Finn, if, as a department, taking a look at that.
Yeah, sure. That's something we could consider in the future.
Good question, Chair. Thanks, Finn. Thank you. So Finn, I have one question. So from Kalia Pond to Ma'alaya, where, this is gonna occur, we have a problem with turtles, don't we, crossing that roadway, from time to time? Is there a concern about our turtles over there in that area still?
Sorry, I'm not really familiar with
Okay,
the
so
turtle issue.
there are a lot of turtles over there and, so just a concern that, that at some given point in time, they use that North Kihei Road to cross over to Kelia Pond and that was a while ago, although, I don't know what the status is today. I'm sure you folks have covered all that. Turtles. I'm just
Yeah.
concerned that, you put something in the ocean and there are the turtles, so I just want to know that they're safe in their haven.
Yeah, in terms of, the actual mooring design, they're required to have, you'll see it in their drawing that they have this mid-depth float that keeps the chain taut off of the ground, and that's supposed to avoid any kind of entanglement issues with monk seals or sea turtles or those types of marine animals.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank you for working with the applicant. I like the submittal. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Any other questions, Riley?
Just a couple of questions and comments. So, generally speaking, I think having more moorings in the ocean provide problems when boat users do not have a mooring to tie up to, or they tie up to one that isn't theirs and isn't designed for the vessel. And we've had numerous problems in Maui with vessels ending up on the shoreline. So I think, in generally speaking, the more options to safely tie up to a mooring offshore will prevent the vessel from ending up onshore. So typically I'm in favor of this. Question I had for you, Finn. So I know this has occurred in Kaihae Harbor, but when you've had a long-term mooring and coral starts growing on the mooring, what is the operator of the mooring required to do?
Honestly, they typically just kind of leave it be. What ends up happening is these moorings kind of create additional habitat for fish and corals. So it's, in my opinion, it's a positive thing for the habitat because it allows for substrate for corals to grow on and a habitat for fish to swim around, basically.
I mean, to me, it's like a fish aggregating device, right? I mean, you're gonna attract more marine life, which I think is positive. But I remember that maybe it was one of the moorings or some kind of anchor off of Keahole, and they brought that to shore in Honoka'a Boat Harbor, and there's a whole bunch of coral on that, and then they tried to salvage it so they could replenish other areas. So
Yeah, I think that was the Nelha one. So and so I think DAR went out there. And because of the extent of the coral habitat that had grown on there over a period, and it might have been they were replacing the pipes. So they actually took a lot of strategy in carefully removing and then replanting in areas where there were, coral damage. So, yeah.
good thing.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I'm in support.
Okay, thank you. Finn, you did a great job. Next time you tell your boss, they should be at this meeting.
Okay, will do.
Thank
guess
you
they
for
trust me.
answering the question.
It's just send an email
Oh.
addressed to a number of us addressing the commercial use permit issue that has been raised.
And
So
she
she's-
actually, okay.
She's working on that.
Actually, she's really good. I think she's on vacation. So
She's working on vacation.
she's right. But Finn, you did a great job. Thank you for
Thank you.
for answering the questions and providing some clarity on the issues. But I think these were good questions. I would like us to follow up on Commissioner Barnes' question or Board Member Barnes' question about the removal bond. because there should be some kind of, fee associated, or at least some requirement, maybe on our end for these mooring permits, that they are required, to remove them when they're not being used.
Yeah,
So-
that's certainly some we could consider,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, very good. Is there anyone here to provide comments on item J1? Okay. Is there anyone on Zoom to provide comments on item J1? No. So I'm gonna close public comments. Okay, board members, seeing no comments, do I have a motion?
Yes, I move to accept the staff recommendation as submitted. And I'll just make a little comment on that. It's really not the fault of the applicant, that there's no other place to go. So other than out to sea, but yeah. So I'm in support. Thank you, Finn.
Second.
Thank you very much. Maybe a point of clarification.
I was just gonna ask
Okay.
that.
About the 343?
Yeah, the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
343 and also what Member Barnes said
Oh,
about
okay.
the removal
Yeah.
bond.
So-
So yes,
Okay, so maybe Cindy, the recommendation doesn't reclude that the board has determined that there's a 343 exemption. Does that need to be part of the action?
Is this one that, yeah.
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 I think perhaps we should
We should,
amend the recommendation to also include the
Yeah.
EA exemption. Sorry about that.
yeah, no, I think that, yeah, so I think I support Karen's comment. So-
This,
So a motion? Okay, so.
So we're gonna amend the
Yeah.
motion?
Yes, would you consider that? Hua, to amend it
course.
to include,
The 343,
yeah,
HRS 343.
that the board also,
that it's approving J1.
Okay, that would approve J1.
yeah, declare that, that it's exempt.
Okay, so 343 will be around for a while.
Oh, yes, it's,
Not going away.
It will be around. It's gonna
Every
become,
meeting.
yep, it's gonna become much
Longer
more,
than us.
much more involved, but thank you.
Thank you, Finn.
So a motion, and then Karen also suggested including the recommendation that the department
consider the removal bond.
investigate including a removal bond for moorings in the future.
Okay,
Okay, so motion has been made. Do I have a second?
Amy,
Second,
I thought you seconded?
no, I think Riley,
Riley did.
And Riley, you accept the amendment.
Chair, if I can, because this item is specific to the mooring that's
Mr.
before you,
Hagley?
I think maybe I think the board understands the request,
Oh,
so maybe if the
about
motion can just
removal?
be focused on the,
Okay,
and J1.
okay. So, so the recommendation by the Attorney General's office is that our motion only be focused on this permit. So exemption and then approving the installation. And we have brought to Dobar's attention the request for the removal bond in future considerations.
And sorry, just for the clarification for the members, it's because of the sunshine law, the title that you have on this item.
Okay, all right. So with
What's that
that,
again?
The agenda title, the agenda title is very limited.
so we couldn't include the recommendation about a removal bond in this one. We brought it to their attention.
You could have other conditions for this one, just not talking about like future permits. That's
Okay,
yeah.
okay. We are a free-flowing board. Okay, so motion has been made and seconded to approve staff's recommendation with the amendment that the board also declared that the project is exempt from chapter 343 pursuant to the specific exemption, class 3, part 1, item 20. Okay, the motion has been moved and seconded. All in, we'll have to, this is a first vote, we'll do a roll call vote.
Member Smith,
Aye.
member Ono,
No.
member Barnes,
No.
member Charles. Chair Chang,
Yes, aye.
member Kanto,
Aye.
member Yoon.
Ole.
Okay, so the vote passes 4-3. Okay, with that, we're now gonna move on to. I know that David wanted to be here for the items, so we're gonna first move on to item D1. David Smith with DOFA he's got an appointment, but we'll try to be here by 10 o'clock. And then we're gonna move back to items, the
Sorry,
DOFAs.
We're moving to C2 or D1?
D1, we're gonna move to
Okay.
D1.
Got it.
So thank you, sorry. Okay, so we're gonna move on to D1, Ian?
Hi, Ian.
Hi, morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Chair, members of the board. Ian Hirakawa with Land Division. So item D1, requesting the board to amend a prior board action of January 10th, 2025, which was cancellation of governor's executive order to the County of Kauai for Hawaiian Stewardship Program purposes and instead issue a direct lease to the University of Hawaii for avian rescue and research purposes and an issuance of immediate right of entry in Hanapepe, Kauai. The purpose of this amendment is to change the executive order reference in the title to correct it from 4045 to 4548. So, and now with the executive order to the county. So, what I want to stress is that this is kind of just a housekeeping amendment to, correct something in the record. This is not, the board has already considered and approved the project, the substantive merits and approved the project. And this is just merely an effort to clean up the record by correcting the reference to the executive order. So be available for any questions.
Yeah, I know, we've had several of these cleanup items, but so I think your point, Ian, was that we're not looking at the substance of the action that was previously taken, only at correcting the executive order number.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and that needed to come back to the board? Yeah.
Well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
only because it was, because the board has to approve all land dispositions.
Okay.
I know.
Thank you.
We will be more careful with that. So, okay,
I have no questions.
okay. Board members, any other questions? Riley?
There was a bunch of testimony that
Yes.
came in about land title. I think it'd just be good to address that, so
Okay.
we're not ignoring the testimony that were provided,
Okay.
and somebody give us a status, whether it's AG or not, on the ability of the department to transfer this land, and whether we have the right to do that. Right, Cindy?
Well, according to Land Division, the state owns the land and it was under EO. That's what the board approved before. It's just the EO number was not the correct one. And so this item is merely to approve it with a correct EO title. So I guess my question to Ian is, as I understand the submittal, but just to clarify, it really only amends at all the first number one in submittal in the previous submittal, correct?
I believe so. Let me double check.
Because the number two, it's a lease, and that is not amended here.
No,
yeah?
no, yeah, it's only, well, I guess it's recommendation, because recommendation one was the exemption in the original submittal.
right,
So
right.
it'd be recommendation two, and we'd, like I said, we'd be
Yeah.
changing the 4045 to 4548.
So one and
So I think to
twos.
Commission, Board
Oh, yeah.
Member Smith's comment, I think we have determined that the status of the land, it's 5B lands pursuant to the Admissions Act. The state of Hawaii owns that land. Issues regarding, I think, relating to sovereignty in those land. I think that's kind of beyond the scope of
This board?
this board at this time.
I agree.
Okay.
I just want someone,
Okay.
not us, to
Okay.
be making a determination or to validate
Yeah.
that the state has a right to do this.
Yeah, well,
And I think that's the Attorney General's office.
okay, well, I think.
I mean, I see 10 pieces of testimony here that dispute that. So I
And I
just
don't
want somebody
think-
on our side to counsel
Okay.
us saying we do have that right.
Well, yeah, we're not,
We're not
We're
the
not
title
quite title.
experts, so
Well-
land division knows the title aspect. They have abstractors,
Okay.
et cetera. So yes.
and,
Yeah,
and, yeah.
we have a right to do this?
I mean, our records show that it is, yes,
Okay.
seated, you know,
I just
state-owned,
don't want to
seated.
ignore these
Yeah.
folks. that
No,
said
no,
all this
no,
testimony.
no, yeah, and I think that's a well-appreciated comment, Riley. I mean, I think the question of, you know, Title II land, impacts of the 1893 overthrow, the Admissions Act,
Nice.
that is really outside the scope of the land board. We dispose of public lands. Ownership of those lands have been determined under the Admissions Act or, so but I do understand, you're right, that we did receive quite a bit of testimony challenging the ownership of the land. And they are always free to take us to court or take the state to
There's a
court.
process.
Yes, there is
and
a
this
process.
DLNR is not
Right,
that process.
Right, we have determined
Just
that
wanna
this
enter
is
all that
public
into the
land.
record, so we're not
Okay.
ignoring them.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
Cool.
very sensitive. I appreciate that. Okay. Any other questions, Karen?
I have no questions, but I want to say thank you to the land division. I think your reports are really good.
you.
And that it gives us all the information that we need, even through the 343 down to the exact item
Oh,
that we needed to go. So
Thank you, yeah,
thank you, it makes it a lot easier.
thank you, and I apologize for the error, but
No,
we'll
no,
double
no.
check, yeah.
And Chair, I
I
want
went, I
echo
got
member
the
Ono as
thing.
well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if there's no other comments from the public?
No, I think we do have comments. So, yeah, so I do have, there are members on, is there anybody in the boardroom here for item D1 before I go on to Zoom? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go on to Zoom. So I see, is it Jean Tamashiro? Yes, go ahead.
Aloha, here I am.
Aloha.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Okay, I'm Gene Tamashiro. I'm a Hawaii National Secretary General for Hawaii Transitional Governance. And we have done our due diligence in this time of occupation. It is an occupation. You guys mentioned Attorney General Ann Lopez. And of course, we've been doing our due diligence to reach out to her as well as to Dawn Chang. Hi, Dawn. And basically, our claim is very simple. Hawaii has been under 132 years of U.S. corporate military occupation. We asked Dawn Chang as well as Attorney General Ann Lopez. So what is your opinion about some manner of lawful remedy and enforceability opinion? You guys are kicking the can down the road, and we actually possess the law already. Attorney General Ann Lopez is now 7 months in default, and Dawn, you're about 19 months in default. I have you live, sort of live, on Zoom, and you can't, everyone is equal under the law. There's no statute of limitation on fraud, and fraud vitiates everything. So this is a friendly reminder, because I'm one of you. We all grew up here. I didn't know what happened to our queen in 1893, but I do know the law of occupation applies. And so for those of you who have been discussing this, just let me be very clear. The United States government is now being purged of people who have not honored their oath to the United States Constitution. And this is a nation-to-nation issue. And I do highly recommend that all of you, because we're all, myself too, we're all being recorded in the public record. Please do your due diligence and at least go, hey, they have a legitimate question. And like I said, the conclusion in law is already made. Dawn Chang, you and Ann Lopez have acquiesced. Your non-response is acquiescence, and we are organizing ourselves. We are in touch with Indo-Pacific Command, and the law will be enforced. Okay, so I just say this with big aloha. I just happened also to have maps from 1872, certified maps from the state of Hawaii, as well as the McBride map. On the
So
McBride
Jean-
map, which is the
Jean-
title, I think.
Jean, I'm
Hello?
sorry. No, so Jean, I'm sorry. We're keeping everybody to 2 minutes. I gave you a little bit of extra time. You are free to always supplement and send us any more information if you want, but.
No, there's no
I'm-
more information we need to send. You guys
Okay.
have been served notice
Okay.
long time, for years. Okay, so I'm just doing my due diligence in the public record to inform you and to warn you. Nobody's above the law. We were born into this lie. It's time for someone to step up. You don't need a silver bullet solution. Just raise the question officially. It is not a slam dunk. The state does not have lawful title. God bless you. God bless us all. Imoa Hawaiʻi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jean.
Sure. God bless
I'm,
you. All right.
I'm going to go on to the next person. Is it Keisha?
You have a
Pilar?
question?
No.
No
I'm going to
question,
take
no.
the next person. Thank you very much, Jean. So Keisha.
Sure, no
Pilar.
problem.
Go ahead, Keisha.
Aloha, Keisha.
Aloha.
I'm Kanaka Wahine from the Ahupua'a of Hanapepe. And I just want you guys to take in consideration in the zoning for this amendment or UH's plan for their nonprofit or the states or whoever's is this is not the place. All my kupunas is buried there, and not just 1, 2, 3, hundreds of them. There are multiple heiaus throughout that site and all around it. And my grandpa, Benjamin Kali Sr., advocated for this property and the Kanakas that resided. This is our home, our kupuna's resting place, and it's not the place to be doing research. They don't need 1 acre. There's so much other pieces of land that you guys could use to your benefit or education or science. Not this 1 acre property that is all we get to malama our kupunas in that area. It's like somebody going to your family's grave and telling you what to do with it. That is not pono. I am not against anybody. I don't like be at war with anybody. All I like is for you guys to acknowledge us as Kanakas and caretakers of this land. That's it. I don't like getting anybody's way. I just trying to clean up, do it right by Keakua and my kupunas and the future generations. Because if we keep continuing down this path, we are not going to get anything.
Okay. Thank you,
And-
Keisha. Oh, no, go ahead.
Just please, just take in consideration to the zoning for this. And we don't need to be kicked out of our homes that we were born and raised at for the benefit of research. And if anybody knows these guys releasing mosquitoes, I live in the valley. We get billions of them. We don't need any more.
Okay, Keisha, your time is up. I appreciate your testimony and
Thank you,
taking,
mahalo.
and
You know,
taking
I just-
time. Thank you very much. And
Thank
for your
you.
heartfelt testimony. Thank you.
Aloha.
I have Julia Digman.
Aloha, good morning. I'm Julia Diekmann. I'm with the Kauai Forest Bird Recovery Project. I'm actually here to take any questions people may have about the project we do. We submitted support last time, so we are currently addressing the extinction crisis of our native Hawaiian
not
forest
done yet.
birds. We have doubled in size, so that's why we are kind of looking at finding a bigger space to do the work of saving our native forest birds.
Thank you very much, Julia. Is there anybody else on Zoom? Brianna? Okay. Thank you. I'm going to close public comments on item D1. Board members, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to accept the recommendation from the Land Division, just correcting the executive order number. Also, I wanted noted, on what Riley said, that if there's any other issues that it'd be brought up with you or the Attorney General. Because right now, this item was already approved. It's just that we needed to correct the executive order number. And this is going towards the protection of our native birds. So we need to do that as well. So I make the motion to approve it.
Second.
Thank you very much. A motion has been moved and seconded to approve item D1 as submitted by staff.
Chair, can I just make a
yes,
comment?
please.
I am also going to vote in support of the motion, but I do agree with Member Smith that I feel like it's really important that when we have public comments like these, that they are addressed directly. I think the fact that we are having these public comments is indicative of deep trauma and pain and mistrust that exists between many people in the state and DLNR in particular. And I think we are not going to heal that lack of trust or that trauma by ignoring or avoiding people. The only way that we're going to do it is by hearing what people have to say and making space for difficult conversations so that we can move forward and heal together. So I think this is it's not a tough item for me in the sense that I think that as Karen already said, this is a cleanup item. I think the purpose of this is really important. Our native species are part of our cultural heritage. We need to protect them, but we also need to do right by the other human beings that we live alongside in this state. So I just would encourage, Land Division. I know you guys are already doing a lot of work in that regard, but just to continue and to accelerate doing that work. And just us as a board and a department to really demonstrate an investment in doing that kind of outreach and repair of relationships. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Chair, we're in discussion, right, Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this one's going to be a hard one for me as well. As noted, we are trying to preserve and protect, native bird species, and this is one of those difficult ones that the board is faced with. It's a matter of scale and priority, to some people, and others it's not. But, I'll be supporting the motion just for that reason. Just for the fact that our native bird species have been eviscerated so badly over time that, whatever measures that we can do to help and address that, I would be in support of. As a Kanaka Maoli, it's difficult because all of these things are interrelated. And so if our Manu species are dying and again eviscerated, then we too die alongside them. So I just wanted to say that. Chair, thank you for your indulgence.
Okay, no, thank you for that comment. My comment is more to Julia. I cannot address the issues related to land ownership. That is, I think those things there are avenues for that. But Julia, I think I heard Keisha's very heartfelt comments that there are people that are actually on that site. And I would ask that that there be consideration given to recognizing that these people may have had long time cultural connections to the place or some kind of connection to the place. So that to the extent that you can, that you're working cooperatively with them and recognizing that they have been there. If there are cultural issues on that site, she's talked about Iwi Kupuna, that those things should be addressed as well. Again, this is, the issue before us is the changing of just the EO numbers. But I think we've received, Keisha, her participation in other testimony. So again, I would strongly recommend that that the program work in collaboration, or at least recognizing those connections to place that these people have. All right? Okay. With that being
Absolutely.
said, thank you. Any other comments or questions, board members? A motion has been made and seconded to approve staff's recommendation. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Okay. Motion passes unanimously with 7 votes. Thank you very much. So, Ian, David Smith is here, so I'm going to move back to C. So David, we're going to take C1. Denny and Marigold is also here.
Thank you. Yes. And Scott couldn't be here today. He's got a nice little PowerPoint. I do not have the PowerPoint, but I did get it in PDF and I made a little copy to see a little more background information and color it, so to speak, both literally and figuratively. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So background information on this project. Record. Okay, thank you. Good morning. David Smith, Administrator, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. So this C1 is a request to approve the use of request for interest for the grant Oluwalu Resilient Reef Transformation Habitat Solutions from Forest to the Sea. So they've been working on over there on the Maui branch for a while. They've gotten a big federal grant, like $9-point-something million to start out on it. Excuse me. No, I mean, a lot of the stuff we work on is nonpartisan, right? So, we're trying to do good work and we're expecting that good work will continue. And the second part, approve and authorize the chairperson to execute and extend contracts and declare this contracts exempt from 343. I have to say upfront that the approval for the use of the RFI is after the fact. Our staff in their exuberance and actually they were working on a time schedule. So RFIs are used in place of an RFP when time is of an issue. You put out a request for interest on a proposal and you get bids and then you select with the committee. We did everything correctly except coming to the board ahead of time to ask if we could use an RFI as a methodology for procurement. So we were kind of circling back on that at the
But we have not awarded, you have not.
I'm not sure exactly.
Now then that would be Mike
You
Juliana.
could, well, yeah. So, yeah, Don and I talked about it and at one point we thought, it says in the statute that the department procurement officer can give approval, which I think our staff was taking to be Don. But talking to the AG, they were like, no, that's the board. I'm like, oh, okay. So they did actually make a mistake on that, but they did everything else. They had, they followed all the procurement rules. Everything's good, except for the fact that we have to circle back. And as long as you guys say that is okay, then we're good. If you say no, start from scratch, we'd have to figure that out. that would be complicated. I'm not sure exactly what would happen. But it's a great project. They've been working on this for years. It's this whole Oluwalo to Malaya restoration work. It goes from mountain to sea. It's watershed protection with fencing to take out feral ungulates. There is a wetland at the bottom that they want to restore that's currently overgrown. And you can see some of the pictures, the type of very, very muddy runoff that you get from ungulate and fire damaged landscapes. So it's sort of a big package for what we're, the kind of thing that led to the fire in Lahaina, just unmanaged land, feral animals. And so it's a mountain to the sea, including the reef. There's a reef component with it to do broad scale restoration, including traditional customary practice. The reef out at Oluwalo is spectacular, apparently one of the most diverse and significant in the state. There are some maps in here talking about the area specifically related to this particular grant. And so it's just a really neat project. We have some other requests in there to get more grants. I mean, we're looking at up to $25 million total to be able to do this, and it's looking really good. So this is the first phase of it. And so that, if you have any other information, I can do the best. I'll do the best I can to answer it. But otherwise, it's approval of the RFI, the 343, and delegate to the chair to continue with the award, execute, and extend. And I'll say, I'm not even sure that my staff checked with the chair. So it's not like she said, yeah, go ahead. It's just like, we just went ahead without not realizing. But I did talk to the staff and they did not realize, that they were supposed to get board approval. So that's a good deal.
Sure, can I ask for the AGUs, are there any legal issues around us doing an approval after the fact, or is this is okay? We're not gonna, yeah. And then
That was a yes, right?
yeah.
Been scolded, don't nod your head.
And talk loud so we can hear.
Rena can get it on YouTube.
And then David, can you talk to us about the risks of if we were not to give you after the fact approval in terms of, and you guys had to start from scratch to the funding, but are there risks to the funding potentially?
Yeah, that would
happen?
risk the funding. In fact, the reason that they got in a hurry and overlooked that piece was because they were working on a really short time frame in order to encumber the money. So if this encumbrance was lifted, we might lose that money.
Okay. I was gonna say cool, not cool, but thank you.
It's an important consideration for sure.
Yeah. And then could you just talk a little bit about in the slide deck, it notes the 30 by 30. Can you just talk maybe for other board members? I know what that is, but others who don't.
Yeah, the 30 by 30 is attempt to protect 30% of our most important watershed areas by 2030. We're definitely on schedule, and Maui is actually ahead of schedule. So if you look at the really pristine areas on Maui and the important watersheds, they're actually ahead of their 30%. So they're doing strategic vision over there. So they're doing good. So it fits right into that because it's all part of that whole watershed protection program that we have going under our Native Ecosystem Protection Management Program.
And remind me, is the goal, is it per island or is it state?
It's statewide.
Okay.
Yeah. But Maui's definitely carrying the ball. They're doing really good on that. And honestly, I'm like, well, 30% of our most important areas. I'm like, that's kind of a low bar, but, we tried to set something realistic. We're on track for doing that. But certainly we want to blow right past 2030. And, I don't want to stop at 30%. We'd like to protect 100% of our most important watershed areas. So it's going to be an ongoing and legacy program for sure.
Yeah, and just maybe to add that there are associated climate benefits in addition to that, right? So
Absolutely.
Natural lands can sequester carbon.
Yeah, a lot of these areas have had, feral goats and, cattle, goats, pigs, sheep, but, in a lot of these areas that we're working with on Maui, they've had large goat populations for many years that have just denuded former forested areas. And so you basically are down to bare dirt. And when we fence these areas and pull animals out, man, we get really good results. And in fact, I think it was over here at no, maybe it was on Molokai. They did some fencing and native plant restoration, and they decreased the amount of runoff coming off the land by 10 times. So, and some of these pictures in here show, some of the Molokai coastal areas where they've had huge amounts of huge problems at Molokai. And people now on Molokai are really starting to realize that we're getting that kind of feedback from folks like, hey, we really need to do something to protect our reefs because there's so much sediment coming out and settling on the reefs and causing damage. So it's a real fishery, nearshore water quality and fishery issue, reef health. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm looking at your submittal and I'm looking at the agenda.
Mhm.
There's a difference in language. I could refer this to AG for comment.
Agenda, it was checked by the
On page 2, C1.
approve retroactive the procurement for work. So this is the agenda, approve retroactive the procurement for work.
When you look at your submittal, under subject, it's
Did you, were you planning on amending the recommendation? I think is the question.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, because I think what we've been advised by AG is what is most relevant is the title of the agenda that's published. And what's published is correct.
Right. So I think what member Canto is asking about is the recommendation for which you're gonna base your motion on. And so is there an amendment to the?
amendment to include the reference to after the fact.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, that'd be fine if that would be good. So approve retroactive the procurement of work, so we could insert that into the recommendations.
so when you say retroactive, how far back does this go?
This was done, I believe, last June. No?
After, I thought it was October, September.
Was it?
No.
Oh, yeah, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
probably right, because it was a federal grant.
Right, right.
The federal grant was running out at the end of September.
I thought it was.
That makes sense. So that would be the change. Approve retroactive using an RFI for the solicitation.
Would it be that, or would it be at the top of the recommendation that the board approved retroactively, and then that retroactive approval would apply to the following 3 numbers under the list of recommendations?
I think
Because all of that is
the
retroactive.
order of it is okay.
Though it's out of order for sure. So the subject and the
I'm
recommendations.
saying, I think the order in the recommendation is okay.
Okay, so
Because you're.
It's a little different than the agenda, but I don't think the order of it is, the substance of it is all there.
right, it just goes out of order when you get to the recommendation.
Well-
So in our subject, it's approve, use, approve and authorize chair and declare exempt from 343. And the recommendations, number 1 is 343. The second one is use RFI, and the third one is delegate authority to the
And
chair.
that seems actually more correct,
Right.
the order in the recommendation.
I think so too.
You
Yeah.
like that better?
Yeah, well, I think it is correct because the board has to approve the exemption first to let us proceed forward. And then it's to do the RFI. And then the second is delegate the chair to sign the contracts.
Sounds good to me.
Very easy
My
to-
question was a little bit different, which is, does the recommendation need to be amended to say that the board retroactively? Because there's nothing that mentions that this is a retroactive decision in the recommendation.
Right, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Using,
Okay, thank you.
Approve retroactively using RFI for solicitation.
But it would be retroactive for all 3 of the recommendation points, correct?
Uh,
Because
mm,
we would, no?
no, because the contract hasn't been awarded
Got
yet.
it. Are we
And the delegation, that has to be approved at this board meeting or whenever the board.
it
hears
hasn't happened yet.
Yes,
right?
it has. So the board, so I think the only thing that needs to be changed is number
Is
2
number 2.
recommendation, yeah. To add into retroactive, approve using Approve
If you want to put it in as
retroactively,
a safeguard, we can do that.
yeah, approve retroactively using the RFI. I think I think Amy is correct. Okay,
Okay, I have a couple questions.
you have some questions?
Yes.
Karen, go ahead.
So these contracts have not been awarded yet. They're just RFIs.
That's my understanding.
Okay, have they been checked as nonprofit entities?
Yes.
When I looked at DCCA, there's nothing there. Okay, I understand that. Maybe they're not registered here in Hawaii.
For
Then I went to
Crows.
look at nonprofit entities under GuideStar, and it was not there. So
Hmm.
unless they're under another entity,
Mhm.
aside from what is being named in this report,
Mhm.
then they're not there.
Okay, that's the Coral Reef Alliance.
Um,
I mean, the Nature Conservancy, we do tons of work with them, so they must be,
yeah, but I think their funds are going through someplace else. So if we could have exactly where their funds are going through when we're making the approvals on the funding, at
Mhm.
least we know exactly where that money is going to. I mean, there has to be an EIN number that's tied to that entity.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we won't be able to, if they are not up on their registrations and whatnot, and authorizations, they will not be able, we would not be able to award them funding, which makes me believe that they are. It will go through, well, there's a multi-level process. So once it gets approved here, then it goes through our fiscal office, it goes through BNF, it goes through the procurement office. So all these folks check to make sure that everything is, that they have all the qualifications.
So Chair, is this a time sensitive issue?
Yes.
I think they're gonna lose funding if they don't get this approved.
I'm sorry, just a question. I think the other change was that consistent with the title that you have. It's the contract in number 3 in the title, I'm sorry, 2 in the title is,
Cindy, are having a hard time hearing.
I'm sorry, it's for the Coral Reef Alliance, and the Nature Conservancy, which is not the same as number 3, 1 is Coral Reef in collaboration with PUCO, which is not in the title.
And Tamara or online.
Okay, so yeah, so apologize, Scott is in a hearing today. But they say both Coral and TNC should be in good standing with 501c3. TNC for sure. That's all I got.
And that may also be a requirement prior to any kind of contracting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's
If they aren't in
sufficient
standing, they will
Right,
not
right.
get awarded.
And you have an evaluation committee that also scrutinize the qualifications.
Yeah.
You had a 3-panel committee.
Yeah.
Who had to look through the criteria. And then, yes, and I know that our fiscal office will want to make sure that all of the forms are completed before
Yes,
they make any.
they are
payment.
absolute sticklers on that.
As well as the AG's office. The
Yes,
AGs will have to
yes, and
approve
the
this.
AG will have to sign off on it.
Right, Dave? So
Okay, sorry, David.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, David. So when asked the question for definitive answer, what were the contracts awarded? You said not to my knowledge. Is that what you said?
Yes, I believe that is correct.
Okay, so why wouldn't the answer be definitively no, given that these cross checks have not occurred yet?
I am just hedging my bet because I'm ignorant. And I would say, if I had to guess, that the answer would be no.
I mean, I don't want you to guess, right? I mean, based on what you said, that indeed, if they're not in good standing with the DCCA or they're not, right, these other requirements are not met, then they would not be awarded the contract, right?
Yes.
So your answer definitively, in my eyes, would be no, right? They have not been awarded yet.
Yeah,
That would be my understanding.
and I would confirm that, Evie. I haven't
Okay.
signed the contract.
Yeah, we haven't signed the contract yet.
Okay. I'm just wanting it crystal clear because while the AG may have opined that legally we're okay on this one, I'm worried about the perception and the optics on this. You know, as we try to establish or increase trust and transparency in what we do, um, you know, what are the guardrails that to prevent this from happening again? Right? I mean, is one of my fundamental questions, and I don't want to be in the way of good. You know me, David. I've always been an advocate for preservation,
All right.
protection of our culture and natural resources. So I don't want to get in the way. But at the same time, we have to be cognizant that there are others watching this, and the optics can challenge the board in the future. And I'd like that not to happen. So I'd like us to be very clear with our language. So David, when I ask you, have it been awarded? Definitively, the answer is no, for the record, right?
That is my understanding. The chair says she has not signed it, so that would be a no.
Okay,
It
thank
has
you,
not
David.
been awarded.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any other questions before I take public comments? Yes,
Yeah, I
Riley.
just want to make a comment.
Yep.
Dave, I really appreciate what you guys are doing here. I would hope that you would successfully be able to do something in Westway, areas between, like Mahukona and Pulko.
Mm,
Continual problems with, ungulate eating everything, siltation, getting to the nearshore waters. So
Yeah.
whatever you can be successful on in Olawala, if you can do it on.
Yeah,
Hawaii Island, that'd be great.
That's a very special place as well, and I know that we have plans up in that area.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members?
No, just one more comment, David. On your reports, can you add next time around the chapter 343 where they're exempt?
Yeah.
As, you know, so that we don't have to fumble through 13
Yeah, sorry,
pages.
we didn't list the actual language in there.
Okay. Not that we're not gonna check too.
No, we'll do that. I noticed that. I was like,
Okay. Is there anybody here in the boardroom that wants to make a comment on item C1? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, Tamara, did you want to make a comment, Tamara? Go ahead.
Trying to do my, okay, here we go. Aloha e, kako. I'm Tamara Farnsworth with the Nature Conservancy, and we are hoping to be working with DOFA on this project, and we really look forward to mitigating sediment and addressing a multitude of threats and hazards in the area, and really bringing really improving watershed health in this area with this project, and appreciate your support.
Thank you for being here, Tamara. I don't see anybody else on Zoom for item C1. I'll close public comments. Board members, do I have a motion? No?
I'm a little confused. So we're missing a few things on this recommendation, right? That you need to confirm with?
no, I don't think so, other than just saying retroactive, right?
Yeah.
Is that the only one we had to add?
I think so.
And the title doesn't refer to Kipuka.
So under the recommendations,
Mhm.
page 5,
Mhm.
declare that it's exempt from 343. 2, approve, and we're going to insert retroactively using RFI for solicitation. And then 3, delegate authority to the chairperson to award, execute, and extend.
Okay, so we're all good with item 3? Or did we have a discussion on that as well?
Or just the title didn't say
It
anything
didn't.
about Kipuka. I'm sorry, Kipuka Olowale.
So I'm sorry, item 3 in collaboration with Kipuka Olowalu.
That was not in the title of E1.
So are you saying that we can't move forward?
I think if that were amended, it would make clearer that it's within the title. Yeah.
But the amendment would be not to reference Kipuka Olowalu? Because the
The agenda
recommendation-
title doesn't have that incorporated. Yeah.
Did we have the AG's office review this?
Yes.
I mean,
But not in,
curious.
but not in conjunction with the
Oh, with the
submittal,
I
yeah.
see. We need to be better about that, including the submittal with the title, so that we're not doing that at the board
I
meeting.
mean, I think that,
That was why I brought up Kipuka because, why I brought that up because
Yeah.
Kipuka was not.
Oh, it wasn't mentioned in the
Yeah.
title. Well, you could line out in collaboration with Kipuka Oluwalu.
That was my thought.
If the Coral Reef Alliance was the lead, then they could collaborate with whoever they
and
want.
I don't think that's a necessary part of the recommendation because, because, it's really a contract with the Coral
Coral Reef
Reef
Alliance.
Alliance,
Yeah.
right? So,
And
yeah.
it seems like that's unnecessary and could actually be somewhat limiting if, you know,
Yeah,
if one
right,
group was not able to proceed and you wanted to go with another group. So it might be better to leave it open.
So we should amend that to take out with Kipuka Oluwalu.
In collaboration with Kipuka
Yeah.
Oluwalu. Okay.
Okay,
Okay, so we're gonna delete, one parentheses and the rest of that language.
we're gonna delete in collaboration with
Right.
Kipuka Oluwalu.
Because that's the only place where it occurs, right?
You leave the dollar amount, the
Right.
four, yeah.
Right.
The Coral Alliance
Right.
for one that, you know.
Okay, I don't see any other changes other than that, right, David? We're good, right?
Yep.
Okay,
So,
so I move to approve
Okay,
As amended,
as amended.
as amended.
second,
A motion is moved and seconded to amend, to approve staff's recommendation as amended on item C1. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Sorry, Chair, discussion item, Chair, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
go
gonna-
ahead for your
I'm gonna
discussion.
support. So Chair, would you entertain, and it's your call as an administrative procedure, would you entertain, Chair, as a part of this, sending in all department memo that the procurement officer, and you know, in these cases is the board, so that we don't have this hiccup, you know, and I'm just trying to think of any kind of
Yeah.
guardrail, Chair, to prevent this
No,
from
good.
happening again, but it's your call administratively. I just an idea, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you for that comment.
Thank you.
I didn't realize it was an issue until it came up. So, yeah, no, thank you for the comment and we'll discuss that internally. We have regular administrative meetings and we'll bring that up. So thank you. So seeing anything else in discussion? Okay, motion has been moved and seconded to approve staff's recommendation as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Votes passed unanimously with 7. Item C2.
Okay, yeah, I apologize. I'm not the best person to be speaking on that particular one, but everybody else was busy today, so I had it. And we have a rather Byzantine procurement code, so it's tough to keep up with sometimes. Okay, number 2 is a request to approve. So this title is different to our submittal. So the title, and we left it this way at the advice of the Attorney General, just to cover bases, I guess, but it says to approve retroactive the procurement of forestry planning professional services and approve and authorize the chairperson to execute and extend a contract for goods and services with Forest Solutions and to exempt from 343. And when you look at C2, so it's for this contract with Forest Solutions that we selected through professional services. And I think, Jenny, we didn't actually need board approval.
Engineering gets the blanket approval.
Right, engineer already has an approval. And so anyway, I was talking to AG's office, they said, well, leave it in there, we can cover our bases. I don't think we actually need after the fact on that because engineering gets that blanket approval at the beginning of the year, so. That differs slightly with this one, which doesn't ask for the after the fact, the title asks for the after the fact. I don't think we actually need it.
So the board recommendation somewhat amends the title? By
Yes.
Deleting that, okay.
I think going with your recommendation, what we
Yeah.
recommend, so the title was to bring that in just in case we needed it, but after we just said, okay, go ahead and fly with that on the title. But the actual recommendation is the
Exactly.
343 and delegate to the chair for the contract for goods and service Forest Solutions. That was all done through engineering branch, who I trust explicitly. They're a bunch of engineers. They do everything perfectly all the time. They're very technical. They're awesome.
They are
They
indeed.
do a really good job managing contracts. So when we go with them, I really trust their process. And anyway, so that's where we're at with that. So 343 and delegate to chair to move forward with this contract, which is, I mean, it's another really great contract working with Forest Solutions for coal reforestation, working on our certified voluntary carbon forestry project, working with the statewide carbon hui, and doing other planning for koa growth models. So a lot of it's related to both koa planting, planning for koa reforestation, koa growth models that'll allow us to develop models that'll show landowners, like if you want to plant koa, how can you build a business model for that? What would be your financial model on that? So some of it might be working with some of the large landowners and ranchers and whatnot who might want to integrate koa forestry into their their portfolio of land management. We're working with people like, there's Bishop Estate, there's DHHL, there's Parker Ranch, working with some of these larger landowners on getting into forestry. And part of it is just like, what's that look like financially? And so this would help to answer some of those questions. And then we're also updating our Hawaii Forest Action Plan and doing some strategic planning around that. So this is a big contract to help us out with all those efforts.
And I noticed you included Kapapala Core. That's a
Yep.
really important one.
That's an ongoing
Yeah.
one. Yeah, we got the plan approved. We want to get some koa out there into the community for koa canoe building.
Thank you. Board members, any questions for David? Riley?
Not a question. I just wanted to disclose that one of our affiliated companies, Palani Ranch, does also hire Forest Solutions because they're good at what they do.
Oh, okay, good to know, good to know. Any other questions? Is there anyone in the boardroom here on item C2? Seeing none, is there anyone on Zoom? Yeah. Okay, I'll close public comments. Do I have a motion? Move to approve as submitted.
Second.
A motion has been moved and seconded to approve item C2 as submitted, as recommended by the staff. All in favor,
Sorry,
please.
as amended.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
so what I would suggest is that if it's covered by another approval of the board, then it's unnecessary. If it's not clear if it's covered by another approval, and this is just in case, then it would make sense to do the 343 and then the retroactive approval and then the approve the contract.
But
Right.
David clarified that engineering confirmed that there's already a delegation to engineering.
But then it should also cover the contract. So it doesn't make sense to only have two, 1 and 2. It would only make sense because they always go together. Right, so what Dave's talking about is a delegation that covers everything. And so this whole thing is unnecessary.
I don't think the contract is.
It is. If you're talking about that yearly one, the contract is
Oh.
covered, yeah. Yeah, so it's unnecessary,
Oh, I
but
see.
if you're doing it in case it doesn't cover it, then it makes sense to cover everything, if that makes sense.
Well, we're talking about delegation of authority to the chairperson, right, to carry the process forward.
Right, which would
Everything, oh.
include though the retroactive, the procurement, right? So
Mhm.
if you want to just cover all of your bases just in case.
You could throw that in there as a place, make sure the CYA.
And I
kind
guess
of-
what I would say is if it is covered somewhere else, the whole
Yeah.
thing, then it's not,
Covers.
it's not a bad thing for
Yeah.
the board to just
Okay.
reapprove it specifically.
Okay. So what are you recommending, that there be a new item 2? Under the recommendations?
Yeah, that is approved retroactive, the procurement of forestry planning professional
If applicable,
services.
approve retroactive.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then delegate authority to chairperson. I guess you could also put if applicable
Okay.
or if necessary.
Delegate authority to the chairperson is item 2, right?
That's now gonna be three.
That's.
Well, you
gonna
could
be three.
put, as the first recommendation, approve retroactive the procurement of forest planning, forestry planning, professional services, and then with, and then 343, and then delegate to the chair. Right?
So yeah, okay, so this, you got it.
This one's all mixed up.
Well, no, I think because we're just inserting number two,
Okay,
so
so we're.
And honestly, I think that's just a
it, yeah.
very conservative approach, but that's fine.
Better to have
Are we
belt and
good?
suspenders.
Better to be conservative. Better to have it and not need it than
Yep,
need
that's
it and
right,
not have
that's
it.
right, that's right.
So, we're gonna make an amendment to,
Recommendations.
To add a second provision, we're gonna replace,
Okay, we're
so it's gonna
gonna
be, one will be
go-
declare that it's exempt, two will be to approve a retroactive, procurement, yeah, it was, was it the procurement?
To use, it's to
Oh, yeah,
use
procurement,
professional
right,
services,
right.
essentially.
Right, retroactive procurement for,
Forestry
the
planning
forestry
professional
planning
services.
professional services. And then three would be delegate authority to the chairperson to award the contract.
did you all get that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that's the motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Seconds.
Okay, motion has been moved and seconded to approve staff's recommendation as amended to add part two. So all
Chair
in,
discussion.
oh,
Sorry,
yes, go
chair
ahead.
discussion. Same as last, it's your call, Chair, as the administrator.
Oh,
Could there
yeah.
be a memo for administrators to check with AG to review one last time for a clean submittal to the board? That way, we're not seemingly doing this on the fly to the public, it's this kind of kapakahi in my opinion.
So are you saying don't approve this until it's been reviewed?
No,
by the-
I'm gonna approve. I'm just another guardrail for your consideration, Chair, internally, that administrators check with the AG and button up these issues before it gets to the board so that the submittal that we receive is clean.
Yeah,
And it's
that's a
not
really good point. Normally, we do send, what we send to the AGs is the agenda. We don't send the submittals. So the AGs are somewhat only commenting on the propriety of the agenda. But I will impress upon the administrators that they need to also include the submittals.
Thank you,
I
Chair.
may not have any more AGs advising the board after that. It's
And
a lot.
we did check with engineering
Yeah,
after this title went in, and they said, no, we are covered.
okay. But in an abundance of caution.
In abundance of
We've
caution,
got this
you can
extra
approve
provision.
retroactive.
Yes, so thank you very much for being more cautionary. So with that being said, is there any other discussion? I'm going to call for the motion. All in favor of approving as amended staff's recommendation, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with 7 votes. Thank you. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Before we do C3, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay. Thank you. Okay. session. I think Member Barnes stepped out.
She's moving her vehicle because they have enforcement of parking too long in the EV parking charging
Oh,
stall.
yeah, no, they do.
One
They
thing the
do.
state's really good at is watching the parking.
Watching parking. Okay, we're gonna move on to item C3. John, is that you?
Yep,
Please
C3.
go
Oh, hi.
ahead.
John Brito, the watershed planner for DOFA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you wanna briefly describe, summarize
So
C3?
seeking, can I get the?
Great.
I just realized
Jason,
that
I'm the
part.
administrator. And so we have a request of approval for selection of a competitive sealed process. So we do this every year.
Yep.
We get funding for watershed, the Watershed Partnership Program. We use a competitive sealed process because price is not, we're not just low bidding. They're complicated. They put in proposals. We have to negotiate. And so that's why we use that process. And this would be, and authorize the chairman to award, execute, and extend contracts. And this is for the implementation of watershed management plans and projects that support native ecosystem protection. And if there's any specific questions regarding that project, those projects or programs, John is the man.
And we're doing this early. This is for fiscal year 26-27.
They're doing it, it's not retroactive, it's proactive, it's proactive. Good for you. Okay, board members, any questions of John? Or do?
I have a question.
Oh,
So this
sorry.
is the new committee, a new evaluation, because I'm reading this thing.
It happens every 2 years.
Oh, every
Yeah,
2
yeah.
years. Okay.
Yeah, so we set up, each one's a separate process. So this process would cover 2 years worth of contracts.
So why is the Big Island and Hawaii not represented in this list? There's Maui. I just wondered why we wouldn't have one from each island, or
They
I don't know.
should.
Is that
be.
because you said the watershed Maui is ahead, so we're going to use Maui now?
I don't think so. Do you have a list? of the projects?
It's included, you had
Where's the
Emma,
word? Let me
John,
see.
Tanya.
Doesn't really have much detail.
Oh, you're
on
talking
this.
about the, for
The
the
list that
the
we have.
representatives?
Yeah.
We don't, but we can include someone. We use Maui because, I sit on their RFP process for their county of DWS. But we should probably we can include, the other islands.
Yeah, that would be nice. And the Department of Health, you don't have anyone yet?
No. Or they haven't decided who it's going to be. They're going through restructuring right now, the Department of Health with their divisions, so they're not sure who is the responding person. Yeah.
But this is an internal committee.
Yeah, it's
within
an internal
BLM.
committee.
Yeah.
Thank you. for
Does
that.
the composition of it change every?
Every year we try to keep the same organizations involved, but the people might change. Yeah.
We might think about in the future inviting maybe engineering to sit on the committee.
Yeah, they
Who can
could
help-
if we
who can
wanted
help
to,
with
yeah.
procurement.
Yes.
They have a lot on their plate, but they definitely help on processing.
Definitely.
They help guide us through the process.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd ask, so, can you give us some idea of some of the areas that are under consideration?
Definitely. So just for like a reference, if you do want to see each individual watershed management plan that we're talking about implementing, it is at hawp.org, which stands for the Hawaii Association of Watershed Partnerships. But we stem from all projects from all over the place. We have quite a bit of projects happening in the Kohala area, so Kanea'awan, Waholana, Keoho on the Big Island is another big project. Maui, just everywhere. Kahiki Nui, Kaupo, Wailua Nui, bunch of smaller projects in West Maui, like Kakuloa, and then Molokai, specifically Kamalo, Kapuale, Makolelao, Pelekunu Valley. Oahu, we have doing pretty good on protecting, but we have a bunch of projects here going on. Which involves like the Ko'ola Mountain Watershed Partnership and the Waianae Mountain Watershed Partnership. Lots of newer things coming up in Makaha. And then we have the Hawaii Watershed Alliance, which is run by TNC, and they're doing a bunch of projects to. Yeah, is there any specific places you're
There
wondering
was a
about?
reference at an earlier meeting on Kuli'o'o. Would that consider a watershed area?
It's part of,
Trying to get the stream regenerated back to Moanalo Bay.
yeah, it's part of it's within the jurisdiction of the watershed partnerships, yes. It's specific projects, I think we're doing invasive plant control. We have some other bigger projects too.
There's a fence.
Oh, there's a fence going up, yeah, that's right, for invasive ungulates and everything, so.
We did have a community group, right? Is that Marigold Zoll, our
Yeah.
Oahu branch manager for DOFA?
I work with the Aloha Tree Alliance to do trailhead watershed restoration work, planting native plants, controlling invasive species, and we also are going to be planting a native Hawaiian hardwoods stand in that area too. That's what I know.
What about Kauainui's marsh area? Is that one of the areas under consideration?
It's under consideration, but it might fall out of this mainly addresses priority 1 and 2 watershed, but there's other DOFA projects happening with Kauainui.
Yeah, we have a lot of work going at Kauainui. We've gotten good CIP support out of the legislature, so we have some big projects going in there. We're gonna have a predator-proof fence, and with other grants, we purchased a lot of specialized wetland management equipment in there, and the crews are doing a really good job on the Makai side of the levee. They've taken out a huge swath of mangrove and other really dense invasive vegetation and restored it to native. Got restoring endangered waterbird nesting habitat. It's really looking nice.
What is a predator-proof fence?
Predator-proof fence is designed to keep out mice, rats, cats, mongooses, dogs, so everything down to very small animals.
Little guys.
Yeah, and so it has very tight mesh on it. It has a skirt that goes under the ground to keep people from digging under it, even little people. And then it has a metal hood on it so that, mongooses and cats can't scramble over the top.
Oh, red ants.
Some of those do.
Yeah, our little Kolohe introduced predators who like to get in and
That's nice.
wreak havoc with our native species.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Riley?
Yeah, I just want to make a positive comment. In the Kauai area where Pelikani Bay is, you can see where the predator fence is on one side of the ridge and all the grass is growing on the north side, and on the south side it's bare. So, I mean, it makes a difference.
Yeah, no, yeah, I've gone to Molokai. Oh, you're absolutely right. It makes a tremendous difference keeping ungulates out and protecting the native species. So thank you. Any other questions to staff? Is there anybody in the boardroom here on item D3? Is there anybody on Zoom on item D3? Seeing none, I'll close public comments. Board members, do I have a motion on item D3?
Motion to approve the report is submitted by DOFA. Second.
Okay, motion has been moved and seconded to approve item D3. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Motion passes 7 unanimously. Thank you very much, DOFA. You should leave as quickly as you can. We may call you back. We may call you back. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation and the good discussion. I'm now going to move on to item D2. Thank you, Ian.
Oh, I forgot we did.
Yeah. D2.
Thank you very much. Item D2 is to approve the issuance of an executive order to set aside land and general lease number S4357 to the Daughters of Hawaii from into the DLNR Division of State Parks for educational purposes and preservation, maintenance, and operation of a historical site for the perpetuation of Hawaiian history. So basically, this site is the Pulihe'e Palace in Kailua Kona. Right now, the Daughters of Hawaii have a lease to run the site. What we're simply proposing is to transfer the land over to state parks because for them to manage the lease because it aligns better with, their current sort of historical and sort of historical site management. So that's basically all we're doing for this. We don't, expect they're gonna take the lease and the land, so they shouldn't be really, it should just be business as usual. Nothing should change with respect to the site itself and the operation. But we have Candice, who's our acting district land agent, and Martha Yen from State Parks as well. So.
Martha, did you want to add anything?
Aloha board members and Chair Chang, Martha Yant with the Division of State Parks. And I'd like to acknowledge Land Division for their support. We asked for this transfer of both Queen Emma Summer Palace and Hulihe Palace. And I know the transfers already occurred for Queen Emma. So, and I also want to recognize the Daughters of Hawaii for almost 100 years of taking care of Hulihe Palace. And I see we do have Manu Powers here today too. But the partnership between State Parks and the Daughters has been a long-standing one. So as Ian said, we don't see any real change in our operations or our partnership that we've established. And we've got a big CIP project coming up here to do some major work on the palace. It's in dire need of some work. So, yeah.
Thank you for being here, Martha. Candice, did you want to add anything?
Nothing more than we support the transfer. We think that it's probably the best thing for Hulihe Palace, and we appreciate State Parks asking to take it over.
Yep. Thank you for that. I do appreciate the coordination and finding the right division to manage. So thank you, and thank you, State Parks. So I've got Manu Powers with the Daughters.
Chair, I have a question for staff before Manu goes, if you don't mind, Manu. So both of these sites are on the historic register, and my concern, and I think you rightfully point out, Candice, that Hulihe and the Summer Palace both, they have some major issues that need repair and rehabilitation, and my concern is how quickly SHPE can move. So do we have any sense as to what that might be? Anyone?
We have gone to SHPE with the AIS for Hulihe, and that kind of set the groundwork for these individual projects that are going to be coming up. So we just completed a repair of the seawall at Hulihe, and so our next project is going to actually involve more architecture rather than archaeology. So good question though. Maybe I'm not too sure exactly if we've gotten all those approvals.
Martha, I know the boss. I can talk to her. Hopefully she can
stand in line.
Advocate heavily with SHPE to get this done quickly. So just let me know and I can give her a call, Martha.
SHPE is doing, they are trying to move. So they are working, developing a lot more programmatic agreements to help facilitate. But good question. And I think that they're trying.
I guess I have a general concept at this point. As it's turned over to parks, you said operations as usual, but then these are going to be state employees that will be operating it. Budget, is there any revenue stream that's contemplated? Budget requests for capital improvements or renovations, so forth. So I guess I have a concern, just rather than just turning it over to parks, what's envisioned, and is parks going to be able to handle this? I know Iolani Palace was a major undertaking, and they had their own organization, I guess, fundraising and so forth. Is that planned with these two facilities additionally?
Well, State Parks for years has been including Hulihe and Queen Emma in our CIP budgets. So I don't see that changing.
Okay.
The Daughters of Hawaii basically run the day-to-day operations, and they oversee the exhibits, the furnishings, you know, the interior. So we focused more on the structure itself, the major work that needs to be done. If you don't mind, I'll defer to Manu to talk maybe more about the daughter's role. But no, they basically handle all the day-to-day visitor services, the tours, opening up the palace every day, running the hours, setting the hours.
So is it contemplated that they'll continue doing that then?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
and Martha, State Parks generally looks at the large CIP structural kinds of funding.
Correct.
So we fund that. Okay.
And we've also been helping with some of the repair and maintenance. They had a vandalism issue not too long ago that we were able
Yes.
to, you know, support that repair.
But it's been a good partnership. Manu, would you like to add to that?
I would, and mahalo chair, aloha to everyone. Mahalo to Martha and to Candace. I'm actually at Hulihe'e right now, but the office doesn't look quite as good as inside the museum, so I'm blurred in the background. We do, to answer your question, Chair Member, we do, Board Member, we do operate as a museum, and if it's all right, I'll just provide a little history for the record. I'm Manu Powers, I'm the Regent, I'm the Board President. And just going back one moment, I do appreciate the support for the Manu earlier in the meeting. I'm here to express my support for the transition from Land Division to State Parks. I'm going to just share a very condensed history with you. The building was built in 1838 by John Adams Kuakini, who was the governor of Hawaii Island at the time. Over the years, the palace has passed through multiple hands, ending up in the hands of Princess Ruth Ke'eliokalani. And in her passing here on the palace grounds, she gave it to, and we all know, Princess Bernice Pauahi Bishop. In 1924, most of you, I'm assuming, have seen the palace from Ali'i Drive or been to the palace, and it's kind of hard to imagine that over 100 years ago, you couldn't even see it. It was so overgrown with weeds and trees. The territorial legislature purchased Hulihe'e and they set it aside for the daughters. We then opened it as a museum in 1928, and we continue to do so. We're doing that today as we speak, right outside this window. Approval of the executive order is very consistent with the management and the stewardship of these places, of these monuments. Having Iolani transitioned from Land Division to State Parks, then Kuinama Summer Palace, Hanaya Kamalama, as we refer to her, and now Hulihe'e. So I appreciate your concern about, status quo moving forward. We hold the lease to Hulihe'e Palace, and we operate it as a museum and as an educational site. As much as possible, trying to share it with the public. So I hope the board will support this transition. I do believe it makes the most sense for this place, and the degree to which we take these choices and make these decisions, it's a direct reflection of our aloha for this place and for our community. So I appreciate, again, Martha's support, Candace's support, Kurt's support, Tracy Tam saying the State Parks Division has been great advocates for the palaces, and we appreciate them very much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Manu. And on behalf of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, and I think I would say the people of Hawaii, we have appreciated the collaboration with the daughters to take on and continue this kuleana. I mean, I think the Daughters of Hawaii, you have a connection to the place, and we know that you continue to honor that, and could not think of better stewards to manage, both of those facilities, similar to Iolani Palace, the Friends of Iolani Palace. And I know that the buildings have aged, and so we are trying, at least in DLNR, to provide some larger financial support through the CIPs. But the day-to-day operations, you guys help with the maintenance, and I think that having that physical presence there does help the buildings maintain its integrity as well. So thank you very much. We greatly appreciate that partnership with the Daughters of Hawaii.
Mahalo for that, Chair. I appreciate that.
Riley. Yes,
sorry,
okay.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Hello, Mano. Riley Smith. I'm the Hawaii Island board member. I just wanted to check. So to go from a lease that has a term to an executive
Oh, no,
order.
no, the executive order is from Land Division to State Parks.
Oh, so their disposition
just- yeah,
doesn't change
no,
the
no,
daughters?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I
yeah.
thought it would help. them
No,
get
no, no,
funding
no,
or something like that.
and I, no, when I read this too, I got a little confused, but no, it stays state land.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, never mind. Thank you. I'm all good.
Okay.
Chair, can I
Keep
just
doing what you're doing.
follow up
We
on
appreciate that, though. Mahalo.
on Member Smith's question and aloha manu. I'm actually will disclose I'm a member of Daughters of Hawaii, so thank you for being here. Glad to see this item before us. I guess following up on Member Smith's question, is there a reason why the executive order could not provide a disposition of this property to the Daughters of Hawaii directly, and why it has to go through parks or even land division? I mean, there are people who don't believe that many of these properties are even held legitimately by the state and that they remain, property that belongs to the royal family. So I'm just curious whether there's ever been any discussion of a disposition through EO directly to Daughters of Hawaii for these properties.
I'm sorry, I'll defer to Martha, but I did just want to follow you for your membership and thank you for representing us so wonderfully. Not to my knowledge, there's never been a conversation about it, but if Martha might be able to address whether internally there has been.
Not with state parks. I'll defer to Ian. I think it might be more.
Well, I guess the lease, given the, understanding how you're saying about, certain people, I guess, believe and have issues with, given how the, what I would call our current sort of structure is, they have a lease, and as a nonprofit, even though it's term limited, they can continue to get direct leases. And as long as they're qualified nonprofit, they can get direct leases from the board at essentially nominal rent. So I guess that's, sorry, something. So I guess maybe that's about as good of a option you could get other than a fee transfer. But, if we were to entertain a fee transfer, normally we don't, as a matter of policy, support that, even if we're selling land, much less giving it away. I don't even, if we can, even to a nonprofit, give the land away in fee for less than fair market value. But you'd still have to go to the legislature and get a supermajority approval on both sides. And that might be even if the board were to support it, it's still a pretty high bar to.
So I think I appreciate the question, Amy. I think that's a policy question. I'm not aware of it being asked, but I think it's rare that we will EO it to outside of government. Usually it's to some state or county or another government entity. I think what happens when we transfer outside of the EO, all of our management and our enforcement authority, so they would have to manage all enforcement. So I think that while there are some, how would I
Yes.
say?
Excuse me, Chair.
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
This is Candace Markin,
Yeah.
Acting Hawaii District Land Agent. It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful.
Yes.
It was originally EO'd to Daughters of Hawaii.
Oh, I
And
didn't know
due
that.
to the extensive repairs that were required, they couldn't handle the funding issues.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
they asked that it go under lease to them so that the state would then use their funds for the repairs and that type of stuff. I think that's how it began. And I don't think anybody's ever revisited it.
Thank you for that background. We
correct,
should have taken
Candace.
you first. Okay, thank you.
No,
Any
I
other
was gonna, Candace, that's correct, and I was gonna opine on that when everybody was done. But to that point, I guess my follow-up question is maybe to Manu or Candice, because I know that condition happened so that, they could afford the maintenance. Where has the legislature been as far as financial support?
I think it depends on the term, right? We were awarded funds, I believe it was, and Martha might be able to clarify, we were worked into the budget, I should say, the term before last, but I don't believe we received any funding in this past legislative session. So to your question, Amy, or Member Amy, having the state as a partner has been really beneficial for us. Having these issues addressed on such a large scale and with such sensitivity has been the best thing for the palace and for the organization. I understand the sensitivities, especially coming off of, Mauna Ala, et cetera, and it's always good to have those conversations and to make sure everyone sitting at the table is comfortable. But I can tell you from the daughter's perspective, we are comfortable with the partnership. We are grateful for the partnership and the advocates that we have in state parks. I would love to see more funding allocated to Hulihe'e Palace. Its significance, I think, is sometimes overshadowed by Iolani Palace and its distance from the capital. But considering the fact that it was Kamehameha I's land originally, that there's just so much rich history here, and I could, speaking of opining, I could do that all day long. But in that, I take responsibility for our really working with the legislators and legislators, and really advocating on our behalf, which is something that we're having conversations about. But I'm really grateful for you mentioning it here in this forum.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
Manu, I might have a little bit experience with museums, but one of the thoughts at the museum, because we actually, during my tenure, were successful in securing substantial legislative funding for Bishop Museum. And it's a win for everyone. But at that time, I was contemplating consolidating all of the museums statewide for a one voice legislative effort. In other words, Hulihe'e, Bishop Museum, Iolani Palace, and then dovetail that, zipper that with the Ali'i Trust, so that we have one voice going forward to advocate to our legislators and other financiers that these things should be looked at as a whole and not as individual pieces and parts and fragments of history, right? Because they do belong to the Ali'i and the Ali'i Trust. So if I think we can come from that lens, Manu, for what it's worth, it's just a suggestion for you to consider as you go forward.
And I appreciate that. It's an excellent suggestion. I'm happy to hear that at least in some places those conversations are happening. I do agree with you that it's we don't see it as our palace. We see ourselves as the stewards of this place as well as Hanaya Kamalama. Our goal is to ensure access for the public, for visitors, and to use it as a point where we can educate everyone on our story as a people, not just at a particular time and place. So I thank you very much for planting that seed in my head. And when you see me at the state capitol next legislative session,
Well, it's not only planting the seed for you, Manu, it's also putting the other organizations on a little bit of notice that, we should look at these things more holistically and as a whole. So, but thank you, Manu, for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay. Right.
I had a question for Candice, maybe.
Yeah, go ahead.
Candice, maybe like 10 years ago, there was some high surf damage at Hulihe'e. So who paid for that repair?
That would be, I believe, state parks.
Oh, so even though it was under Land Division's management, state parks paid for the or the repairs when the basement got flooded and the stuff got damaged. Okay, good. So good reason for the state to be involved, so there's access to funds to keep the structure going. Got it. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Would you indulge me one more comment, Madam Chairperson?
Yes, go ahead.
And I think Martha alluded to it earlier. The seawall, was just repaired, right? So to your comment about Shipty and moving the token forward, you know, these things take time. We recognize that, but having eyes and attention given to them is critical. It took years to get that seawall done, and our mahalo to state parks because it's beautiful and it's solid, and hopefully it will sustain the sea rise and the next tsunami, because we know there will be one, of course. So mahalo to state parks for that.
Okay, thank you. I know, Leimana, did you want to provide a comment? Okay. I'll take public comments now.
Thank you, Chair
Yes,
and
yes.
members. Leimana Damate. I'm the Executive Director of the Hawaii State Ahamoku, but I come before you as an individual. Hulihe'e Palace is very, very cherished by the people of Moku'oke'awe. And I myself and my family were docents for Hulihe'e for a number of years, and that carries on with the different traditions and the kuleana that the people of Kona feel towards Hulihe'e. When I was a docent there were many big storms that destroyed the seawall and all the way up to the porch. And there was no money and there was no funding. What we did at this time, Auntie Leigh Collins was the curator. She called on the people and she called on our families and my husband and my son and my cousins, and all the people of Kona jumped in and repaired that wall and took care of the pond and took care of the lands it was a kuleana. And I wanted to bring that forward because, speaking as someone from Moku'oke'awe, who is related to the ali'i of Hulihe'e, it has always been our kuleana to take care of the palace. Now, I also bring a different perspective because I've worked, as you know, closely with state parks. This is the best thing, I think, that can happen to protect the palace and protect the legacy and protect the people themselves. I know my family is very happy if state parks takes it over because we can trust them and we will work with them in many different areas. I just wanted to bring the perspective of the people forward who have been intimately involved with Hulihe'e over the years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leimana. I always appreciate that perspective. So thank you for sharing. Do I have anybody else either in the boardroom or on Zoom? Okay. Nope. Okay, I'm going to close public comments. Board, do I have a motion?
I move we approve item
C2, D2, D2,
as recommended by staff.
Second. Okay, motion has been moved and seconded to approve item D2 as submitted by staff. All in favor?
Chair,
please
can I
say-
just
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
make a
Go
comment
ahead.
before we vote, and really appreciate Candace and Manu giving us some of the background and context on this, and also State Parks and Land Division for all the work that you've done on this. I mean, I think going back to my questions before, I'm glad to hear that this transition is happening and that it will provide support for Daughters of Hawaii to do this important work that I think we all agree needs to be done. I also take heart from what Leimana said, that in addition to state parks, there are people from the community, from place, who have been doing this work to protect and steward this place for a long time. And I know that we have certain constraints in the current system that we are operating in, but I would also challenge us to think about how we can move to a place, and by us, I mean the board, but also staff and also the legislature, to move to a place where the daughters could return to a situation where they would have a direct EO with the state without having to have the relationship with parks, to be certain that they could have the funding necessary to steward this place on an ongoing basis for the future. because I think that that is the just and right way for this land to be held going forward. So I am fully supportive of this. I'm again grateful to everybody who's working to make this happen. But I do think that that is the future that we should challenge ourselves to move towards. And I think that that is true not just for this property, but also for other properties that State Parks is currently stewarding, including Mauna Ala, as Manu mentioned, and Queen Emma Summer Palace. So with that, I will just, again, thank everybody for their work and voice my support for this. Thank you.
Yep, Member Barnes, I agree as well. And I was trying to be nice and cautious the manner in which I spoke to Manu about these ideas. You know, but I'll just lay it out there. In a perfect world, you know, perhaps the state and legislature can ameliorate the hardship and financial costs that are immediate, and perhaps the Ali'i Trust should really, you know, step up and conglomerate these cultural resources so that their disposition could be back in the rightful hands of the rightful people. So just a thought, but thank you, Member Barnes, for exposing me yet again.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments, board members? A motion has been moved and seconded to approve staff's recommendation on item D2. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Motion passes with a vote, 7 votes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Manu and Candace, for joining us. We'll move on to item D3. Ian?
Rebecca Anderson will present for D3.
Okay.
Oh,
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. Rebecca Anderson with Land Division on item D3. This is a request of a grant, a request for a grant of a term, non-exclusive easement, immediate right of entry and revocable permit to Marianne Arini and Derek Regal, trustees under the Marianne Arini Trust dated September 2nd, 2021, for a seawall footing, steps, and pavement at Lahaina, Maui, identified as TMK 2453, Seaward of 027. The applicants in this case are two individuals, Marianne Arini and Derek Regal, who are the trustees of under the Marianne Arini Trust, which is the landowner of the property. We're asking for, this is one of our standard shoreline easements. The area involved is approximately 192 square feet. The rent that we're asking for, the monthly rental amount during the pendency of the right of entry and revocable permit would be $141 per month. And the removal bond we'll be asking for, the initial removal bond we'll be asking for, is in the amount of $23,293. This is, like I said, it's one of our standard shoreline easement forms to resolve a shoreline encroachment. In this case, the property, the seawall at issue has been in place since at least 1960, potentially earlier. The home, this, and let me back up for a second and be clear that this is a residential property that's within the recovery zone in Lahaina. It's located in the single-family residential area of Front Street, again, within the recovery zone. And it's very important, I think, that the board be informed that this particular property is one of fewer than a half dozen single-family residential properties in the Lahaina, in the Front Street recovery zone that are actually owner-occupied. So, and this is based on information collected by the governor's office of Maui through their Maui recovery efforts. This may be one of actually only 2 residential properties where the owners actually live there full-time as their full-time sole residence. And I think that's very important to consider when we're looking at this disposition. The original residence has been destroyed. Everything on the property, all the structures on the property were destroyed in the Maui fires. But the original residence was built in 1953. So we can assume that they're very likely the seawall is older than 1960, although that's as far back as we've been able to, as OCCL has been able to affirmatively identify its presence. on the site. The encroachments at issue here, the shoreline is set at the Mackay face of the seawall. The encroachments at issue are a portion of the seawall footing that's submerged, a set of steps that comes down off the seawall, and a small concrete area out there. I'm not sure what the function of it is, but it's there. And so that's the encroachments that we're asking for the easement to resolve. It's also worth pointing out that this property is connected, this residential property is actually composed of 2 TMKs. The one that it's issued today is parcel number 027. Parcel 026, which is also a part of the same residential property, also owned by the same people, already has an easement in place for that portion of the seawall footing, a set of stairs and another small concrete area. So that, so basically half the property has an easement, and we're coming in for a second easement for the second half of the property.
So the seawall is a non-conforming,
That's correct. The seawall is a non-conforming structure as determined by OCCL.
and the shoreline, and is the SMA Malca, excuse me, is this within also the shoreline management area?
It is, yes.
Does it fall under, so is this also falling under SB 1296? It's reconstruction of property that's been, the disaster recovery. So, permitting them to reconstruct.
I don't know, I don't recall if 1296 though, if it excludes all shoreline parcels from any exemption in the bill, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, no, it subsequently was amended not to exclude shoreline parcels.
Okay, so if it doesn't, because I've seen a lot of the recovery bills and a lot of
Yeah.
them say, not include any,
Right.
what I would say, any kind of exemption it gives doesn't include shoreline parcels.
right.
So if it does, I guess if it does include it without, I don't have the bill in front of me, but if it doesn't have that limitation, then I assume it
I
would
think
be
it doesn't,
included.
it does, I think the latest bill that I saw, it doesn't exempt shoreline parcels.
Okay, then I presume it would be included then,
Yeah, we haven't done that kind of analysis because any pending legislation right now, we don't have a final word on what the final product would be. And so we couldn't say definitively whether something would apply or not. So
And this is only for repair of the seawall.
there's actually no repairs,
Oh, it's
no
just-
repairs being contemplated right now. This is simply to
Resolve the
exactly, to resolve
encroachment.
it, resolve the encroachment for purposes of certifying the shoreline.
Okay.
And the homeowners who are here today via Zoom have, as far as we know, I don't think they have any plans to do anything to this seawall structure. They just need it normalized so that they can get their shoreline certified, so that they can get their building permits and rebuild their home so they have a place to live.
The amendments.
Yeah, and we do have, thank you, Ian.
No.
And Land Division is proposing a couple of amendments to this submittal. And I have them drafted here for the board's convenience, so we can see what we're looking at. I suppose we're. Oh, thank you. I suppose it's just easier if we're all looking at the same thing, and not just trying to describe things. And I suppose for board member Yoon, we can hold it up to the camera if you need to.
Make sure the AG gets one.
Yes, I have the copy as well. So the amendments that we're proposing, sorry, are, these are a couple of technical, combinations, sorry, of technical and substantive. We're asking for, in light of the applicant's situation, and their ability to, the fact that they have a very large financial burden on themselves right now, they've lost everything and are rebuilding. These are middle-class folks who are not your typical Front Street Lahaina, coastal landowners. We're asking, instead of a one-time payment, in consideration of the easement and this would be in the future, when the easement is approved by the legislature and finalized, we're asking, instead of a lump sum payment, to split that appraised value up into an annual rent payment. So we'll basically would get the appraisal like normal, generate an amount of an appraised value of the 25-year easement. And then instead of having the applicants give us this money all at once, divide that total by 25 years. And there's probably going to be an interest factor. The applicants are aware. They'll probably end up paying a little bit more in total by splitting it up into annual payments, but it's going to be a much more manageable burden on them to be able to split it up and pay annually instead of paying a lump sum. This is a practice that Land Division has done in the past. My understanding from our senior land agents is that in the past, applicants were offered a choice between annual rent or lump sum payment. And we've dropped off in practice the offer because no one took it. Everyone wanted to pay the lump sum. So this is something that we have done in the past that we do have a process for. So that's the first amendment we're requesting. The second amendment that we're requesting, this would be to the recommendation section on page, starting at the bottom of page 7 and continuing to page 8. This would be recommendation number 6, I believe. So this would be, subject to the applicants fulfilling all the requirements, asking the board to approve, number 5, asking the board to approve the non-exclusive easement. The amendment we're asking for is to subparagraph C. The first one, we actually had the incorrect statutory reference in there. We had the statutory reference for filled land instead of for a shoreline encroachment. So that would be taking that technical correction there. And this is on page 7. I'm sorry, page 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it would be subparagraph C.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So we would change that statutory reference, instead of saying that they're required to post notice pursuant to section 171-16D Hawaii Revised Statutes. We're correcting that to put in the correct information that they'll be required to get the prior concurrence of the legislature and the governor pursuant to section 171-53C Hawaii Revised Statutes. Then again, that was a technical drafting error. That was my fault. And then we're also asking, the last amendment we're asking for is similar to at the last board meeting when we asked the board to put in a requirement for a second removal bond under the lease, so under the easement lease, so that when there are 10 years left on the 25-year easement term, asking for that second removal bond to be posted at that time to protect the state in the event of the termination of the easement. And again, as was stated in the last meeting, this is a standard term for many of Land Division's ground leases. And we're adding it to the easement leases to standardize the process across the board.
Thank you for that explanation.
I just want to add, I mean, just because too, this submittal was finalized prior to the meeting, the last meeting, so, but moving forward, it should be included, yeah,
It will be,
the following,
yes.
like from the next meeting on, it'll already be included as part of the recommendation, so. yeah.
Because.
Any other questions
what they
for
have.
staff?
I
Right?
have questions for staff, Chair, and then I have to leave, unfortunately. Rebecca, in the submittal, I can't remember, or maybe I missed it. The Coarse Rubble Masonry wall was built in the 1960s, correct?
It was built at no later than 1960. 1960 is the earliest date that OCCL could verify.
Okay, and it did survive the wildfire, correct?
Yes, it did.
So there will be no work to the existing seawall, correct?
At this time, there's no work contemplated on the existing seawall. And I've
Okay.
done a site visit, it's structurally sound.
Oh, you're a structural engineer now? No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm not a
I'm
structural
kidding.
engineer. It appeared to be structurally sound. And I know that the
Yeah, okay.
applicants are working with architects and planners, and I think they probably would have identified if there was a need.
Okay, just for the owners, my line of questions is to sift out and to determine if indeed there's going to be any armoring of the shoreline, which this board has taken very strong action against. So that's why I wanted to find out if there was any work being done to the Coarse Rubble Masonry wall, but indeed there is not, according to Rebecca. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Riley?
The only question I had, I wasn't clear, so when, you don't know when the wall is built, but as far as you know, it was legal at the time it was
This is
built.
not one.
Yes, if it was, so OCCL identified based on aerial photographs that at least as early as 1960, it was present in its, in more or less its current form. And at the time, that would have been, that would be considered a non-conforming structure because at the time, that was before the enactment of our statutes and our administrative rules and our county rules as well, prohibiting development within the shoreline. So it's considered a non-conforming structure because at the time it was built, it was prior to all the laws saying it couldn't be built.
Wasn't it also built on private land?
It probably was built on private land on that time. We have seen shoreline migration in this area. It probably was on private land at the time it was built.
So I think that's why we would consider it non-conforming.
That's
because
correct.
At the time, it's legal because it was built on their land.
Got it.
And then through shoreline erosion, ocean erosion, now it's abutting the shore, the wall.
That's correct.
A related question then, so if it fell down for some reason, they could not rebuild it?
That's correct. Yeah, there's a, the administrative rules give, and the coastal zone management statutes establish a 50% threshold for if a structure is damaged. If it's damaged more than 50%, it cannot be rebuilt. If it's less than that, then a person seeking to rebuild such a structure would have to seek probably a conservation district use permit and also a county shoreline special management area permit. And there's a whole process that includes public hearing and EIS and an evaluation for that.
And I guess what I was getting to is that,
On page 7.
it's- assuming this is approved, it's incumbent upon the owners of the property and owners of the wall to keep that thing maintained.
Yes.
So that it does not deteriorate, it does not fall down.
Yes.
And do everything you can to make sure it stays okay
Yeah.
because you're unlikely to get a permit later.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good point. Karen?
That was a question that I wanted to ask. So right now, we're only looking at the, for them to get the shoreline certification.
That's correct.
So at this time, they're not gonna do anything with the undermining of the wall.
That's correct. And actually, this wall isn't undermined. We're asking for the easement for a footing that sticks out a little bit and these stairs that stick out a little bit. And there's this concrete piece there that sticks out into the shoreline area, but the wall itself is not undermined.
Is that concrete? Oh, no, go ahead.
Can I ask, is this lot 26 and this is TMK 26 and 27?
Opposite. The small lot is 26 and the large lot is 27.
So lot 11 is 20.
Look at the
Sorry,
page
my
you're on.
brain This is 26.
Sorry, with my glasses, I can't
Okay.
see that mark.
On 11 is partial 27.
Got it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Is the cement piece a hazard?
I don't believe so. It's, when I saw it at the site visit, it didn't seem to be so. And because the shoreline is located right on that Mackay face of the wall, there's not, under most conditions, a traversable beach to begin with. It's submerged to begin with. So I don't think there's going to be people walking across it to trip or anything.
And that's actually on their property, that cement piece?
It was originally, and because of migration, it's become located within the shoreline.
Okay. And I do see, we do have, is it Jackie? Yes. Oh, okay, Jackie, and then, okay, so I'm.
Yours are online and published.
Okay, all right.
Just one more
Yeah,
quick
sure.
question. So what's the current timing for when it expired?
For the easement.
Yeah.
We're currently, the board's policy has been 25-year term.
Okay. So it would be 25 years
25
from
years.
today.
25 years from execution of the easement.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'm gonna take Jackie, who's in the boardroom, and then I'll take the applicant. Maybe, are you okay? Are you Jackie? I am, yes. Okay. I'm just wondering if I should take the applicant first, if they've
That's
got,
fine.
yeah, okay. So is it Mary Ann and Derek? Do you want to
Yes.
add anything to the presentation?
No,
First of all, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Rebecca's done an excellent job, I think, explaining what our situation is. We're just trying to get a building permit, and this is part of the process. So that's all that's necessary. We hope you consider approving our easement.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Chair, can I just ask a question?
Yeah,
to the
go ahead.
applicant? Hi, thank you for being with us. Just curious, when, for your rebuilding plans, are you rebuilding in the same footprint, or would you be rebuilding further forward on the lot? Just in terms of, we're thinking about shoreline erosion, so curious if you're gonna be sort of proactively moving forward on the lot.
Correct. Our plan is to comply with what the new rules are. We'll be 40 feet back from the shoreline. So we were actually about 25 feet, the original house. So we'll be going all the way back as far as we can go on our property. So we are abiding all the rules by all the rules in all terms over the whole project.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Paul.
Well, it wasn't for the applicant, but since we're here, I just want to say, sorry for your loss, and we'll see
Thank
what
you.
we can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jackie Lasky? Yeah.
Hi, aloha.
Aloha.
Chair, Chair Chang and members.
Well, let me just let the record reflect that Board Member Yoons left the meeting. Okay, go ahead.
My name is Jackie Lasky. I'm here as a second-year law student, part of an assignment, but also as a concerned citizen. I am asking that the board defer decision-making until more information can be obtained. I also want to say I'm sorry for your loss, and I understand the desire to rebuild as quickly as possible. I just want to point out that the Lahaina Long-Term Recovery Plan was just issued by the county in December 2024. There's also the West Maui County Plan, January 2022. And I would just want to make sure that the recovery and the rebuild keep in mind the known climate changes, shoreline erosion, sea level rise, so that the decision-making isn't piecemeal, one property at a time, but to actually look at a comprehensive statewide plan that's led by the county and the community as far as what is best in the long term. And I don't think there's answers to that yet. When I looked through the submittal, a lot of questions were raised for me. And as I said, I'm a student learning about all this. So I had questions, and I assume maybe that those should be addressed. For example, there is actually, my understanding, a current application for a major use permit from the applicant here for the special management area. And so if there is, I don't know the terms of that application, but assuming there is a major use permit, does that mean that Chapter 343 actually is exempt? And I'm not sure of that. And then how this complies with coastal zone management, the 205A. Also, as far as notice for the community, at what point does the community get input on it? It'd be better to do it before there's any sort of contested case, but to allow that ahead of time. So these are sort of the things that I ask that the board consider in deferring the decision. I'm not asking to deny it. I'm just saying I think more information is needed to make that sort of informed decision making.
And is the additional information questions like the ones that you just had?
Yes. And I think there probably are more. I mean, I can go into detail. I'm sorry. I submitted written testimony late. I stand by that testimony, and you can please look at it. I do cite to both the long-term recovery plan and the county plan as far as a few areas where I think that there should be an alignment of this particular application with the larger plans. And that alignment, I'm not sure has been addressed yet.
And I appreciate that. So my understanding is that this is all we're approving is not the right for them to rebuild. It's just for them to get a shoreline certification because there's this encroachment of portions of the wall, the steps in particular. But they will still be required to go through all of the county, the SMA process. If there is an SMA major permit, then they'll have to do a public notice.
Yes.
they'll have to do a 343. So ours is just to permit them to resolve the encroachment so they can get a shoreline certification. And then they begin their regulatory process. So I don't think this doesn't cut short any of the concerns that you have. Those are very legitimate. So we're not in any way circumventing the county's authorization on the SMA or coastal zone management on the CZMA. All we're doing is resolving the encroachment issue. So does that help you in any way? No?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
I do have a remaining
Okay.
question though, because my understanding from, this is just from the page 2 of the submittal. The terms of the non-exclusive easement, the character of use, it would allow the right, privilege, and authority to use, maintain, repair, replace, and remove existing seawall footing. And so I guess my concern is that replacement. Allowing this easement authorizes them to replace
Not
it.
automatically, they still have to come to us. So I think as was described, if a portion of the wall, let's say, gets damaged, they would still have to comply with all of our regulatory, for example, our OCCL, our Office of Coastal Conservation and Coastal Lands. So they'd still have to get, for example, like a conservation district use permit. And I think as the exchange with board member, if more than 50% of the wall has been destroyed, it is unlikely that they will be able to repair. So this doesn't automatically permit them to repair or replace. The easement does permit them to be legal, and then they still have to comply with regulatory requirements. So I want to assure you as best as I can that what we're authorizing, should the board decide to do that, doesn't permit them to build their structure, doesn't permit them to do anything with the wall. It just resolves the encroachment issue. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yes and no.
Okay,
I
okay,
guess
that's okay.
I would feel more comfortable if it was clearly stated that they are not authorized to replace it until, even if it's, let's say, 49%, because if it's 49% damaged.
Answer that on behalf of the applicants. First off, thank you very much for your comments.
Could you just come up and introduce yourself?
Should I leave? Should I stay?
But I do want to go on. I got two more agenda items.
Madam
Okay, go
Chair, we very much appreciate your time and letting us speak to you today. Rebecca's been very helpful.
Could you introduce yourself?
My name is Thorne Abbott with Coastal Planners. I'm a planning consultant on Maui. And I do work on all the islands, primarily Maui. And so this answers both your questions and those of Amy Barnes. So they do have an SMA major use permit application, so they'll have to go through the whole SMA process of notifying all the neighbors within 500 feet. They've already placed an ad in the newspaper that they made the application, so there'll be a lot of public process, but I'd like to speak with you more in the future. Also, the Maui County Planning Department, Maui County Planning Commission passed new rules that incorporated sea level rise projections for the future. And those projections go on the other side of Front Street in this case. So they're entitled to what's called a minimal buildable depth footprint. So it's kind of a de facto smallest footprint you can have for your house. And they've moved as far Mauka as they possibly can. They're respecting the state shoreline setback of 40 feet, so they're more than 40 feet inland, and they're elevated up, so if there is a flood, it goes underneath the house. We're talking about a 1,400 square foot structure or thereabouts, not a monster mansion by any means, kind of a plantation style house. And the burn down, they're reconfiguring, repositioning the house so it can be as far inland as feasible. And they did meet with the county planning department to figure out where that footprint would be. And that was done through the office, not through the Office of Recovery, but the planning department met with all the shoreline owners to have that conversation. Okay, where are you gonna rebuild and stay out of harm's way? That's the whole objective here. How are you gonna stay out of harm's way? And as the chair has communicated, this is really just an easement for portions of the wall that extend seaward of the shore, the certified shoreline. That certification is important because you can't get your SMA permits unless you get that certification. So that's why we're here today.
So your representation on behalf of the owners is that they are gonna comply with all of the regulatory requirements? that the
Yes,
town
and right now you
university-
can't rebuild a seawall in Maui County. That's not in their rules. Even if there's a tsunami that fell down, you can't just go out and rebuild it. It's a very, very lengthy process, very lengthy.
And the additional, Ian, Rebecca,
Yes.
this easement is subject to concurrence by the legislature and the governor.
Yeah, that's correct.
So if they don't concur to this easement, it doesn't, they may not get the easement.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I guess I'm less concerned about this particular, I'm less concerned about this particular property and just in general, just encouraged to think comprehensively in terms of some serious decisions that need to be made about coastline homes and some recognizing private property rights, but also recognizing the realities that how long will this last? 15, 20 years before there's other issues. So I just encouraged that larger framework of coordinated.
We would
And
urge you
that's-
to raise that with the counties as well.
That's why the county met with the owners to talk about the sea level rise projections for University of Hawaii and how they're gonna build in that relation to that.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you. Appreciate the
Glad to
clarification.
answer any other questions you might have.
Do I have anybody else here to provide a comment on item D3? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comments.
Sorry, Cindy pointed out on the amendments we submitted. Under 7 and 8, we'll just note that it's recommendation 5, there's a 1 there. But so note it's recommendation 5 that we're amending.
Yeah, not right.
Yeah, on G, on the very last
Yeah.
amendment G, that word revetment should actually be pavement. Slight typo there. Revetment should be pavement.
Oh, revetment should be pavement.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not, there's no revetment there.
Yeah.
And I have one comment to add to, if you don't mind. Since we're talking about 343 earlier, page 3 refers, discusses chapter 343 environmental assessment. And the last sentence refers to section 1-200.1-17 HAR should be 11-200.1.
Okay. Thank
Just
you
a
for
typo.
correcting. Okay, all right. So with those amendments, board, do I have a motion?
Can I
Oh,
just
go-
ask one more question? I'm just looking at the sea level rise maps, and I mean, even under like very modest sea level rise, this property will be underwater within not that distant future. I mean, curious, just a question for the applicants, to make sure that you understand that what we're contemplating here is only another 25 years. So through to 2050. And you guys probably know this better than most people, nothing is forever, but just curious if you have thoughts or can share what you think, about the fact that this is only for another 25 years, and are you okay with that understanding that this isn't something that's being permitted in perpetuity?
May I?
Sure.
Well, first of all, we're both over 70. So 25 years from now, I don't know whose issues it's going to be. Hopefully it's mine. But we completely understand that. And all we're trying to do is get our home back and comply with every requirement that's been put in front of us.
Thank
You
you.
look great.
Hey, we're only 70. We're not too far over 70.
You look great.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. It's not easy, but thank you for your candor.
Any
You're
other-
welcome. If I
any
can just
other-
say quickly one little thing, we're in the Baby Beach Pu'unoa area. And it is, we're not disputing any scientific research that has been done, but this is a little sweet spot just right a few blocks from Lahaina where it's extremely calm. We have the island of Lanai in front of us. We have a coral reef about 100 yards out. It's a very calm area. My sister has owned the property, which was acquired by us a few years ago, since 2005. And we have to abide by what the projections are, but we're willing to take the chance. Let's just put it that way. And for our children as well.
All right, so
Okay.
I've got a couple more agenda items, so.
Yeah, sure.
No, but thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And responding to Board Member Barnes' questions. Any other comments, board members? Okay, is there a motion?
Chair, I'll make motion to approve, as submitted with a few changes here.
The one submitted by Land Division?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
As amended.
as provided by Land Division? I
Yes.
think we need to review those. all.
Yeah, and then Karen, did you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay,
Do we
sorry.
need to read them into the record for the public?
The one, on Rebecca's submittal to us,
Yeah.
right below page 7 and 8, change that numeric number to 5. Okay, and then further down, actually, the page in the back, go ahead and correct the revetment on item G as in George to pavement.
And then you're correcting 5C, you're adding
Yeah.
that prior concurrence of the legislature and approval of the
Correct.
governor through a concurrent resolution pursuant to section 17153C HRS.
Yeah.
Are you also including, is it part of the submittal, the recommendations, the annual rent?
Yes,
because it's submittal, it's a one-time thing, Right, so right.
And rather than.
So you're making that amendment as well?
This one. Yes, the one, yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion has been moved and seconded to approve staff's recommendation with the amendments that have been read into the record. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
So, Chair, I'm gonna be voting in favor of this. I think the Maui wildfires are an extraordinary circumstance that merits our flexibility in this consideration, but, I think also just hearing that the applicants are really well aware and entering into this rebuild with really clear eyes about, what may happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen. And, you guys have this property for many years, but what scientists are telling us may happen, being really clear eyed about that, I think is important, but, yeah, I think somebody else mentioned this is not necessarily has not been the sort of direction of the board for a while, but I think this is an extraordinary circumstance that merits our flexibility.
Thank you. Have
Thank
fun
you.
today.
Oh, we don't vote yet.
You leaving?
We're gonna vote. Sorry, we need to vote.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand. Motion passes with 6 votes. Let's move on.
Mary Law.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good luck to
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
We,
Thank
we-
you.
we really want to thank Rebecca and Thorne and the whole board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Let's move on to item D4.
Item D4 is issuance of a right of entry permit to the United States through its Army Corps of Engineers in the Honolulu District to conduct defense environmental restoration program activities on state lands on the islands of Hawaii and Oahu. Nick Ferrer is on Zoom and he'll present. Oh, Nick, I think you're muted. Can't hear you.
Nope, you're still muted.
Oh, Mick, sorry, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I think you need to turn up your volume.
Maybe you can hear us, period.
Nope, we can't hear.
Okay.
Maybe
I'll-
Ian?
yeah.
Go ahead, Ian.
Oh, basically, so, these kind of ROEs came before the board before, and what we're doing is, in this case, we're just adding 8 new properties which are included in Exhibit 2. And just so the boards, and Mick, if you can confirm, just so the board's on, these are FUD sites, right? Formerly used defense sites. Is that, you can nod your head, Mick, if that's.
Yes,
right.
they are.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay. And basically, so that means that they're gonna use that they're the what we call the Corps of Engineers version of the ROE, not our version, right? That's what we would, that's what
That's
they're.
correct.
Oh, okay, we can hear you. Okay, go ahead, Nick. Sorry,
Okay.
we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I got my mic fixed here. So, yeah, so what happened is we did a, going back to, I think, October of 23. And so we're kind of pooling all of these things into like one right of entry. And so that way we don't have to continuing to keep coming back to the board. We just renew them once a year. And these particular parcels here that are in 2 areas, one's in Poly and the other one is on Big Island, Waikoloa maneuver area. So really it's just kind of an add-on, and I didn't do it as an addendum because it's kind of stale dated now. So all we're doing is our partners over there at the Corps of Engineers trying to accommodate them to be able to get out there and continue doing what they've been doing, which is cleaning up any UXO. And I've got, I think, at least 3 guys from that office in case anybody has any questions. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Vernon?
Yeah, I guess I have some questions. And I think there had been a report issued to me, but it's been 80 years in some of these fairly urban type areas like the Poly and by the schools and all. What has been done in 2023, 24, when we last came back, 24 to 25, keep on adding in new areas. I have no idea what's going on with the so-called right of entry. What is the feds doing to remove ordinance over the last 2 years?
I noticed. that
Hello,
you-
Mr. Char. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So why don't you introduce yourself, and if you could answer the question?
Oh, absolutely. Hello, Mr. Char. My name is Rich Tanaka. I'm from the Honolulu district of the Army Corps of Engineers. And I think at least what we can do is let's talk about like the last 2 rights of entry that were approved. So thank you very much for that opportunity to do that. Mr. Ben Konchak, would you like to give an update on, like, say, the work done at Sector 17 Delta Project 10, as well as Sector 17 Alpha Foxtrot on the Big Island of Hawaii? Over to you, Ben.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Yeah, so if you could, can you explain what have you guys been doing over the last 2
It
years?
seems to me the only thing I hear is that you've been fighting over what form to use, whether the Fed form or the state form. And, this goes back to 1943. Has anything been physically done? And the other thing I'm concerned about is, it seems to me that the authorization is only for you to go out and search and report back and not remove the ordinance. At this rate, I'm quite concerned about any future requests by the feds for military training when we've got all this more areas coming up now, another 8 areas. What has been done the last 2 years? Even have you searched? Have you found anything? Have you done anything?
So,
Hello, Mr. Char. Thank you. I can have, first of all, Mr. Ben Konchak, who's in our office on the Big Island, like, say, give an update for Sector 17 Delta for at least 2 of those projects. sir.
and Mr. Tanaka?
Yes.
I guess the problem I'm having is use of your, Delta I mean, is that a location? Is that a?
Oh, ma'am, I'm so sorry. Two of the projects that were like, say, approved last year for right of entry, one was like, say, Waikoloa area, Hapuna Beach Park. And then another one was also around like, say, the coastal area around the Hapuna Beach Park as well. So I'll ask, like, say, Mr. Ben Konchak, who's in our office, to please give an update on those two projects. Over.
If you can describe what you've done, Mr., is it Konchak?
Yeah, thank you very much, board. Appreciate the time to give testimony this morning. My name is Benjamin Konchak. I work for the Army Corps of Engineers out of the Waimea office on here on Hawaii Island. And I've been working with the former Waikoloa maneuver area, which is one of the largest formerly used defense sites since 2004 as a private contractor or working for private contractors. And then since 2019, working for the Army Corps of Engineers. Just a little background. To answer your question, board member Char, the two areas that we previously received rights of entry from the Corps of Engineers that Mr. Tanaka was talking about are shoreline areas that run from approximately Anai-Ho'omalu Bay. You might be familiar with the large Hilton Resort on the Big Island, all the way up to Kauai Harbor. And over a couple of thousand acres along that shoreline area, which is very important to residents for recreational purposes, as well as our visitors with many resort areas. We have been performing remedial investigation activities and remedial design activities. And what that means is we have been doing field work to try and understand which of these areas were used by the military and where there is a potential hazard of remaining munitions. A lot of these areas had cleanups in the past, but we really need to understand where to spend our annual funding to go in and do future remediation as there is a risk to the community. And part of that is understanding, doing the field work to run metal detectors. We run transects that are separated by several hundred feet. We do sample intrusive digging below the surface, as well as looking at the items that are on the surface. We do review of National Archives material. We do statistical analysis based on these results and the density of metallic response we're getting from the metal detectors. So it's a comprehensive process to look at these areas and figure out what the nature and extent of use was, and then put forward a proposed plan and come up with a remedy and a decision document that we can fund any remaining cleanup that needs to be done in these areas.
So can you say, so when you identify, so under the right of entry, have you found anything in these areas?
We have found things in these areas. There were non-time critical removal actions that were done in the past based off of preliminary information. And these have been, as I mentioned, I personally have been working on this site since 2004. With the military using over 100,000 acres here, there's been removal work going back many years. And above Hapuna Beach, there have been hand grenades and mortars recovered in the past. Some of the transect investigation work that we have been doing in the last couple of years, we have found munitions debris or parts and pieces of munitions in some areas. We have also found other areas that we have not found any evidence of military use, and as part of recent National Archive research found that Parker Ranch did not lease portions of the shoreline. So we're building the evidence in these areas to also reduce our footprint and relieve some of the some of the impact to the community and the landowners as far as when you're passing title or doing a development project, having to think about the risk of munitions.
Are you able to at least indicate what areas are clean? I mean, is there any progress being made to at least certify certain areas are not subject to munitions?
Hi.
Yes.
Yes, we just like say closed out an area that's like east of the Waimea town called Pu'ukapu. That's almost 11,200 acres that we found no evidence of use. Therefore, we were able to remove that from the floods inventory, sir. We're working on some other projects right now down in like say, also like say like the southern part of like the Waikoloa area, place, around Waikiki Ranch as well, sir. Over.
Riley, did you want to add?
Yeah, let me just clarify what Vernon asked you so that you can give him an accurate answer.
Sure.
What Vernon
Thank
asked you was whether your work has certified that there's an absence of unexploded ordnance in the areas that you checked. That's the
Yes.
question I asked you. So it goes to the certification. Will the Corps of Engineers and the UXO contractor certify that there's no ordinance there?
What it is, at least in one area, yes. Like say the 11,200 acres, that's, like a lot of that is DHHL land, if not all of it. That we did certify as no evidence of use, no further action. So
Okay.
we did do that in December of 2023.
Sure. Okay, let me clarify. He's asking you a different question. Not that you didn't find anything, that there isn't anything. All you can certify is to what you didn't find, not that there isn't any unexploded ordnance there, correct?
Mr. Smith, thank you for your question. What we did actually certify within our record of decision was that nothing was found. We don't have any evidence of use over there. So therefore, there is no need to do any more work over here. And so therefore, we have certified that area.
Good, thank you.
And therefore, Mr. Tanaka, do I understand it, for example, DHHL, as a result of that certification, DHHL may now open that area for residential use?
I think what it is, and of course, I'll have Mr. Ben help me out over here too. I think what it is that there was some, like, say, some prohibitions on loans. With that record of decision, those prohibitions have been removed.
I see.
Yes.
Maybe if I can make a comment, because I think I know what the board wants to hear. Okay, so your work has certified that there's no unexploded ordnance. DHHL awarded pastoral, residential, and agricultural leases in Pu'ukapu over the last 40, 50 years. With your certification that there is no unexploded ordnance present, it enables the awardees for the Department of Point Homelands to apply for and be approved for housing and urban development and FHA loans. Is that your understanding?
I believe that's the case, sir.
Okay, because I think that's the important thing that did not exist 2 to 3 years ago, that DHHL and the federal agencies have said that with your certifications, now the awardees are eligible for federal loans that they were not eligible for 5 to 10 years ago, which is going to enable them to build houses on the land that they've been awarded many years ago. Is that accurate?
Thank you, sir. I think, yeah, the issues with the loans, and due to what we were able to do in December 2023, I think, that has been enabled for a number of the, people in Pu'ukapu, sir.
Thank you. Okay.
And Mr. Tanaka, go ahead. No, you were able to do that under the right of entry? The right of entry is what permits Army Corps of Engineers to go out there and make that assessment?
Well, yes, like what it is with the right of entries, what we have with our Friendly Defense Sites program is that there's like say inclusion into this program, is it eligible or not, like a certain amount of land. Then we do some like historic research, and then if there's like say a need to go and like say to go and do some field work to like say see if there's any sort of what they call the nature and extent of any sort of contamination. That's what a right of entry allows us to do, ma'am. Over.
Okay. Vernon?
Yeah, okay, I hear a lot of words. I'm looking now at the Poly area, Monowili. I go hiking there all the time. This has been on the list since 1940. I mean, it's been investigated for some activity since 1943. That's 80 years ago. And that is a current area under your right of entry. Has anything been done on that? Or is anything planned to be done on it? Can I go hiking there? I mean, I read all of these reports, beautiful reports that come out, but I have no idea as we pass on this every year, and every year we add on more areas. I've seen no subtraction or progress on, for instance, the Poly as a area is the example I'm most interested in at this point. I said, see the report come in year by year by year, same report.
Mr. Char, let me direct that question to our project manager, Mr. Kevin Peen. Kevin, may you please provide an update, sir? Over.
Yes, so in 2012, we completed a non-timed critical removal action at the Poly training camp, and that cleaned up about 26 UXO items at that time. And we did a remedial investigation in 2017 that found an additional 7 items. So total of 33 items that have been found and disposed of in the Monowili area. The remedial action for which we're requesting the right of entry is to do an additional 10 acres of clearance to remove any UXO hazards that might be present.
Okay, I guess that's good to know, but I guess is there some record to show, much like this Juan Holmes area, that what the original area was and what your finding of clearance in some of the areas and what remains to be under right of entry? Is there any report or anything of that nature?
There's reports documenting the work that has been completed. So the I believe it was 40 acres for the non-time critical removal action, as well as the transects that were completed during the remedial investigation. So that's all documented in our reports.
And where are those reports? Do those come to DLNR?
As a matter of fact, they do. When I took over Barbara's desk, I went through and there's binders and binders and binders. And what I've been trying to do is get all the CDs out of them or DVDs. And I'm trying to put it on an archive so that we can just look them up on our on kind of a database. So I have to take a look and see what the most recent reports are. But I'm one of the keepers of the reports, but the health department is kind of the one that they deal with directly with this. We're just kind of the people that they have to deal with to get rights of entry. So as a courtesy, I'm getting the reports and I'm trying to archive them in a way that we can look them up rather handily. Like if Mr. Char says, has this been done? I can go back into my office and either get the disc and see and then forward something to him, or if I have it online, then I can pull the report and email it to him.
I think you did send something to me when I made this inquiry last year. I'm just trying to see what progress is being made in this area?
I'll have to see what reports that they sent, because the gentlemen that I'm dealing with here are kind of the guys that are, what should I say, on the ground. And I think the reports actually come out of a different unit. So, that's kind of, because just because they're not answering it the way you want, it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't have a report, or a report hasn't been sent to me that I can, take a look at and be able to send you something to answer that question. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, to the extent that you're the guys that are coming to us to grant right of entry for what areas and for what reason, I think. Because that's essentially why we're here, is we're granting these right of easements, but I have no idea. All I hear every year is that more areas are added, nothing about what's being taken away, what's been, what progress has been made.
So maybe I would recommend maybe Ian and Mick in the future, when you come to us on these right of entries, you also provide us a report on an update of what's been completed for the previous right of entries that the board approved, so that
Fair
there
enough.
is a good record. Because
Yes, sir.
I think Board Member Char raises a good point. In many instances, the board approves stuff and we never see what happens. So if it is an annual thing, it would be helpful to give us an update on what was done over the past year, so that we have a running record of not only the future requests, but what was done in the past.
I might add to that, especially for the Corps of Engineers, that as new leases are coming in, or requests for lease to the military, I'm getting more and more concerned on granting future leases to the military in view of these 80-year history of what went on and still not cleared as of this date. So just as a forewarning.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Char. Absolutely. I think the one thing that we do really want to try to do is, like, say, for from these defense sites, this is really to help, help make Hawaii safer. Let's help try to get, like say, these places that we found, and if there's evidence of any sort of contamination, to help make these places safer. Our program started in about 17 October 1986. And then from then, it's really just trying to find out what happened in the past. And, we are getting through some of these records, but, and like we do appreciate the partnership. This is, like a partnership between us and many stakeholders, including our partners at the State of Hawaii Department of Natural Resources. So thank you for hearing us today. Over.
Thank you.
Well, I think maybe just to follow on what Member Chair is saying, and I would wholeheartedly agree with it, and, I don't want to give you guys too hard of a time. I know you're just here doing your jobs, but also it just strikes me that it's sort of like I have an Airbnb and I've rented it to somebody and they've trashed the place. And then they're coming back to me saying, we'd like to work in partnership with you to clean it up. And also, we'd like to come stay again. And to maybe put a cruder, less elegant way of saying it than Member Char did, I think, from my perspective, you have to clean up the mess that you've made before anybody contemplates letting you come to stay again. And I think Member Char has a point of view that certainly extends well before my time on just the history of the fact that these problems continue to be left unattended with little information for the board in terms of what progress is being made. And so I really appreciate you guys being here today. I know it's not always nice to have members of boards, maybe not giving you kind words, but I think what you're hearing from at least me is an encouragement that, we really need to see progress being made in very clear, tangible language. How many acres? What are you finding? Are there areas that have been certified as cleared? Because without that information, and just given the long history of trust breaking between the military and folks here in the state, I think you're going to find yourselves in a difficult position when leases come up in the future, not just from the board, but from the community who we're already hearing from, who frankly are not particularly supportive of that. So just, you know, for you guys, I know you're already on notice on that, but just please keep that in mind and help us help you to be in the best position possible when you come to us. And you can do that by being really clear with the information you're providing about it to us about what you're doing and what you're achieving in this work going forward.
Well said. Randy.
Yeah, just, I know you guys want some clarity, and I know what Vern has asked you to do. So I would make a suggestion that if you look at Exhibit 5 in our packet, the last graphic in there that shows a portion of the South Kohala region that includes Hapuna, Waipalo Maneuver area, Pupa, the different areas that we've all been talking about. If you would use a graphic like that and maybe use a color code that shows the areas that you've already surveyed and found that there's no ordinance, so that one color code, green means it's cleared, red means you have to clear, or something like that. And I wouldn't limit it to the state lands, because I know that you've done a lot of work in the entire Waikoloa Maneuver area, which may not be state lands. So everything you've done, DHHL lands, Parker Ranch, Waikiki Ranch, so that we can clearly understand that for the last 30, 40 years, you have accomplished a lot. It's just not all in one place for us to see, well, you're 50% through or you're 20% through, because I think that all of us want to be able to clearly understand that you've made a lot of progress, which you have. You just need to convey that to us. And it's not Nick's job to do that, to compile the reports. I think it's the Corps of Engineers and their contractors to do that. That makes sense?
Well, first of all, Ms. Barnes and Mr. Smith, thank you very much for that, because we do want to be responsive to the public. In fact, the FUDS program, you know, includes, and like the circle process includes, like, say, inputs from the public. So we do appreciate this, absolutely. You know, and I could just say, like, me and like members of my team, you know, a lot of us grew up in Hawaii. A lot of us, you know, definitely do want to continue living here. And, you know, we do want to help make our public safer, and we do want to, like, say, help communicate so much better. So we really appreciate this input. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions to the, is there anybody here to make a comment on item D4, D5? Is there anybody on Zoom for D5?
Chair, I just actually, sorry, I had one last question for staff. I saw that that OHA had a question about archaeological sensitivity maps for the proposed remediation areas. And then in at least what was an attached for board, it said there was just a response from Mr. Tanaka saying that they did have archaeologists, but they were out. Perhaps they could discuss, but then there was no further record of the conversation. So I just wanted to know whether OHA's questions had been resolved satisfactorily and whether they therefore had no further comments or concerns about.
Mick, would you want me to start, or would you like to go there, sir?
Well, you can. I got some of those comments late, and they weren't able to get into the submittal, and so their testimony, I guess. And so I'd invited them to the meeting today. I thought maybe somebody would speak up from there, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, Ms. Barnes. What it is that for all of our projects, we have an archaeologist on it. We also have a contract archaeologist on it because, you know, the, like, say, proper care of, like, say, cultural resources is important to us. So is, like, say, the proper care of any biological resources is also important to us. We also have a biologist, like, with the Army Corps, as we also have, like, say, a contractor biologist on all of our projects there, ma'am. But yes, in terms of this, I did respond to our partners at OHA about, like, say, a week and a half ago or so. I did see a response from them just yesterday. So that's what I got on that there, Ms. Barnes.
Okay, and can you just confirm they're saying, OHA would like to confirm that a certified archaeologist will be present to conduct after the fact assessment of any possible damages following any UXO detonations or removal within or in close proximity to any previously identified historical sites. OHA would also like to confirm whether SHPD was contacted regarding this ROE. So can you confirm those 2 points?
Let's see, over here, I have, and I'm just pulling up the email right now, that a certified archaeologist will be present to conduct after-fact assessments of any possible damages following the UXO detonations. Okay. Here's what we can do, and this is what we do. We do have a qualified archaeologist with experience in Hawaii archaeology to be present to conduct after-the-fact assessments of any possible damages following any UXO detonations. That is true, ma'am. Regarding SHPD, like say just reviewing the ROE, we will be, like, say, speaking first of all to who the landowner is. That's who we go to. That's our process, like, right there. So I'm not sure if SHPD has been a consultant on it, but if they have any questions for us, we do have archaeologists who can answer them.
Do you know if SHPD was consulted?
Well, according to the submittal, they were provided the submittal for comments, but it doesn't look like they responded. Is that correct, Mick?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so the answer to the second question is SHPD was contacted, they had no comment, and then the answer to the first question, Mr. Tanaka, that I heard was, yes, you all will have a certified archaeologist present to conduct after the fact assessment of any possible damages. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, and I'll even say before too.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
They were present before and after, ma'am. Over.
Okay, thank you.
Because generally we try to do avoidance versus mitigation. So I'm hoping your archaeologists on site, if there are any indications, at least on the surface of a sensitive area, that you are considering that before doing any kind of ground disturbance.
I found the email. Let me give you a quick one on the answer. It says a qualified archaeologist with experience in Hawaii archaeology will be present to conduct after the fact assessment of any possible damages followed by any UXO detonations or removal within or in close proximity to any previously identified historic sites. This archaeologist will be supervised by a principal investigator who meets the Secretary of the Interior professional qualification standards for archaeology. As a general practice, archaeologists will be present to identify and mark for avoidance known or newly discovered cultural resources within the project area. In the event munitions are found in a cultural resource, it is a preferred approach to relocate the UXO to a predetermined location for detonation. In areas where munitions need to be detonated in place, contractors required to mitigate impacts so as much as possible. So that was the long answer. Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions, board members? Okay, I close public comments. So do you have a motion or any other comment?
I move that we approve item D4 as recommended by staff.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Carol. The motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Vote passes with 6 votes. Thank you very much. Let's move on to item D5.
Thank you. D5 is asking the board to approve a set aside to the city and county of Honolulu for wastewater pump station purposes in Waimanalo. This is really located, I believe at or near Bellows. The land was conveyed back to the state, and the city established a wastewater treatment site on it. Initially, it was contemplated giving the city and county a lease, but rather at this point, as times the lease was never consummated, and And instead, we believe the proper method of disposition should be a set aside to the city. So just point attention to Exhibit A2. So that shows the blue in A2 is a current plant, and they would be receiving the land in red to allow for future expansion of the facility as maybe needed.
Board members, any questions for staff?
And do you know if this is gonna improve coastal water quality? I just live in Kailua and we have an increasingly bad problem with water quality on the beach, kids and other people getting sick swimming, so
Yeah, I don't,
I'm sure it's the same over here.
yeah, I don't know if they have plans in terms of upgrading the facility in the future. I mean, this is just to sort of clean up the existing situation of the plants already existing and getting them the land, but I would hope that, since we're giving them additional land, they could go ahead and make whatever upgrades, as needed.
Okay, thanks.
Any other, Riley?
Yeah, just point of clarification. So this is a sewage pump station.
Yes.
So it's the low point. Wastewater comes here, then it gets pumped to the treatment plant that's across from McDonald's behind Waikupanaha Street.
Mhm.
So nothing gets treated at this location. This is next to Jack in the Box across from Shima's store.
Sorry, let me
Yeah,
double.
look at the picture on Exhibit
I thought it
A.
was next to,
I think, this is part of Bellows. I'm not sure exactly if that's where you're talking about, like if that's part of the area.
I think it's around the,
I
So if you
think
look at
Riley's
A2,
correct.
the pump station is kind of inside of the
But-
red line. The building to the top is Jack in the Box. The supermarket is on the left of that, and Shima's store is across the street. So it's kind of
Oh, yeah,
by
yeah.
the farm lots closer to Olamana Golf Course area.
yeah,
But this is just a pump station.
Yeah.
So the wastewater gets pumped to the treatment plant, which is more down by McDonald's. So nothing that happens here is going to improve or degrade the water quality, because there's a stream right here that you can see that empties into Bellows. But nothing that happens here is going to impact whether the water quality is better or worse. I guess if you didn't have a pump station, then you'd have cesspools and everything else and would degrade the groundwater,
But to confirm, it is you're right, it is a pumping station. I don't see anything that, as far as I'm aware, that is a treatment facility as well. So.
Any other questions? Is there anybody here to provide comments on item D5? Is there anybody on Zoom, closed public comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve staff recommendation on D5.
Okay. A motion's been moved and seconded, open for discussion. Seeing none, I'll call for the motion. All in favor of approving item D5, please raise your hand. Okay, motion passes with 6 votes. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the final item, D6.
Okay, thank you. D6 is a issuance of a right of entry permit to Popoki Place Oahu Cat Sanctuary for due diligence purposes, out in Waialae, Ko'olaloa, Oahu. What I think I want to maybe stress with the board is, we kind of saw quite a bit of testimony, enthusiastic testimony for this, but I want to make it clear that this is just a right of entry to start the due diligence process. This is not a long-term disposition, and there's a lot of work to be done as part of the due diligence to, if this is determined to be, potential site, that they would have to do a lot of work and then come back to the board for disposition. So we just want to make clear that it is only a limited purpose ROE to conduct due diligence at this time.
Thank you, Ian. And I know, do we have any questions? Because I know we have members of the Popoki Place. Yes, please, why don't you come up and introduce yourself? Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, sir, for saying that. I'm aware of that. We did have very enthusiastic people when I told them we were coming here for a hearing. They went crazy and they went, "Can we testify?" I went, "It's open to the public." So anyway, thank you. We'll hopefully you'll need more testimony later to make it move forward. Aloha, everybody. Aloha, Chair Chang, and all the members of the board and you. Thank you for, my name is Holly Hollowak. I'm the founder and president of Popoki Place, a Wahoo Cat Sanctuary. And joining me today is co-founder Tom Hollowak, and he'll speak in a minute. Mahalo for allowing me to testify on strong support of allowing Popoki Place to have a right of entry for parcel 53. Popoki Place, a Wahoo Cat Sanctuary, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the mission of creating a large-scale sanctuary for free-roaming cats. Our priority is to remove the cats from sensitive areas, from the beaches and the parks where they threaten endangered native wildlife, and permanently housing them in secure open-air enclosures in a natural environment. Popoki Place will be a beautiful and park-like setting where people can relax and enjoy the environment while saving lives and helping to protect the fragile, unique ecosystem. Popoki Place is the missing piece of Oahu's stray cat management puzzle. A large-scale sustainable sanctuary will serve as a critically needed pressure relief valve for shelters, rescuers, and the community. We've been working diligently for over 5 years, creating partnerships with the Hawaii Humane Society, Cat Friends, Cat People of Oahu, Aloha Kitty TNR, Lucky Paws, Cat Charities, veterinarians, and many more cat-related groups. We have spoken with departments of the state, like you, Chair Chang and Chair Hurd, state senators and representatives, the mayor, the heads of the Department of the city departments, including the city council. And we've been working hard to find an appropriate piece of land that would facilitate the high-quality, well-planned sanctuary. Everyone supports this idea. We just need land. We have been looking for the unicorn property, the one that nobody really uses for anything. We need an agricultural pasture land and understand that it cannot be important agricultural land. So this Ag 2 property is excellent. This parcel has been vacant for 50 years since it was retired from being a sugarcane plant. And some of it has never even been used for that. We think we have found our unicorn. Stewarding and conserving Hawaii's precious biodiversity and ecosystems is of the highest priority. Establishing a large-scale feral cat sanctuary is to move the needle on solving the cat crisis is overdue. Please support the development of Popoki Place, a Wahoo Cat Sanctuary, including this critical piece of allowing the right of entry to parcel 51, which is the essential next step in creating a much-needed cat sanctuary on Oahu. We are anxious to begin the work and conduct the studies that is needed for the EA. We have a gentleman named Mark Howland from Whale Environmental Services who will be conducting our EA, and he's done several EAs up in that area. And so he knows the area well. Mahalo nui loa for your consideration, and I'm here for any questions. And Tom has something he would like to share. Thank you very much, Holly.
Good morning. I'm Tom Hollowak. I'm the co-founder and operations manager of Popoki Place. I wanted to get on the record the nature of this property. I would bet that you've all driven past it and never known it was there. As you go up the windward side and then go past Turtle Bay, there's a point where the road makes a left turn and starts going down toward Haleiwa. Just past there, this property is on the Mackay side of the road. Now, there is a house there. There's a triangular shaped piece.
No, it's on the Mauka side.
I'm sorry, the Mauka side. That was a Kuleana property. And the interesting thing about this land is this is not ceded land. This land originally belonged to Kamehameha III. He was very dependent on his advisors, and a man came over from England who was trained at Harvard named Charles Gordon Hopkins, who became a financial analyst and actually the very first land agent in the Kingdom of Hawaii. And he acquired 10,000 acres, which then became known as Kahuku Ranch. So the land was acquired directly from the man whose property it was, Kawikea Oli. And eventually James Campbell bought that because Charles Hopkins actually became part of the Kingdom of Hawaii's government and became a citizen. James Campbell created Kahuku Ranch and leased it to Frank Dillingham, who then started growing sugarcane on the property, and he built the rest of the ORL railway line all the way from Kaena Point to Kahuku in order to do this. And there was an old government highway that went through that area, not where Kamehameha Highway is, but it was inland on the Mauka side. When they built the old road, they basically found a place where it was level and then started to go up at about altitude of 20 feet. And that road went right through the center of this property, just Mauka of the tip of this Kuleana land, which we call the triangle because it stands out as that. And so the southern half of the property was cleared and they grew sugarcane on it. The northern half of the property was half cleared, not very much, but there was a big sort of a wilderness area in the middle. And we were able to actually walk on the property and do a very quick survey with someone from Dova who is here today. And what I found was huge basalt boulders, not rocks. We're talking about like a cliff that had fallen down, which I can only assume was probably a lava magma dike intrusion into the area, and all of the rest of the stuff around it, the tuff and the tephra, eroded away and became giant boulders, which then fell down in a pile. On the 1902 map, we found a reference point to it, calling it Pohaku Nui, big stones. And I have to tell you, they're not stones. They are literally boulders. 10 to 20 to 30 ton boulders. So that area was never developed. And so we feel that to be able to go on it and do the cultural survey, we feel good about the fact that the area that was developed as sugarcane, we probably won't find anything. And also most of the cultural development up in that area was on the Makai side of what's now Kamehameha Highway. It was taro fields. In fact, there were 47 Kuleana parcels issued between Kavela Bay and what we now call Sunset Beach. So all of the cultural area was evolved around the taro land, and that triangular parcel was given by the LCA to a man named Kane Alihi. And in the maps it says natural spring and taro land, but that's not on our property. Okay. So that's why it's never been used for anything. But I just want to say that the chain of title is very clear. Kawikea Oli sold it to Hopkins, who sold it to Campbell, and Campbell then gave it to the territory of Hawaii, which is why the state of Hawaii now administers it. So this is no means land which is under any kind of shadow of title. I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you.
Well, all right.
Any questions for Popoki Place, the applicant? Riley?
I just had one real quick question. I looked through your brochure and
Thank
it said
you.
some kind of relationship with monk seals, but it wasn't clear what you meant.
Well, there is some issue with some people are worried about cats their feces. Some cats can get a disease called toxoplasmosis. It's like getting the flu. And while they have it, they shed the toxoplasmosis in their feces. And the feces can sit on the ground when they go, and it just, the cat moves along and then they get well and they don't have toxo anymore, but the oocysts live in the feces. So when the rains come, if the feces are not removed, it can roll into the ocean and they can sicken monk seals and have been known to sicken 15 over the last 15 years. So that's what it is. But what we'll be doing is by removing the cats from the beaches and the parks, we'll be taking them away and putting them in an area where the feces will be managed and not allowed to run into the ocean. So all of the thousands of cats or whatever we end up with will be, that'll end that cycle.
And I will share, we are real supportive of providing available state land for a cat sanctuary on each island. And Holly them have been working very long and hard and with our land division to try to come up with a suitable site, as well as they've been working with DOFA. Because part of our consideration for this is we have many very valuable forest reserves or state parks where we have cat colonies. So the understanding is that they will work in coordination with us to make to remove those cat colonies from these critical habitats to be placed in the sanctuary. So I think it's a good partnership.
Thank you. They're our priority,
Right.
is to take them away from where we know that they're going to threaten the shearwater birds or whoever. Yeah. Thank you.
This is a kind of the invert process of predator fencing. Instead of fencing predators out, we're fencing predators in.
They're going to be happy. Everybody, our motto is it's a win for everything, you know, it's a win for the community, a win for the cats, a win for the wildlife. And it's a way to save them all. I mean, we can't kill our way out of this. We can't just kill all the cats. We've tried that for years. That didn't work. So this is a way to find a way to save them all. If you can save the cats and remove them where they're threatening other animals. Because we love them all.
Thank you for your work, and yeah, I'm really glad to see this, and it's just struck me for a long time that this is a problem that has seemed intractable for a really long while that really shouldn't be, and people at odds who both care about animals and
Yeah.
animal life where
Right.
they should be in alignment. So just appreciate you guys, you know, taking the initiative to put this concept together and really help bring it to, I guess, not full fruition yet, but bring it one step closer on the process. Do you, just in terms of the vision that you have, is the idea that in partnership with like the Humane Society or other groups, people would be adopting out animals?
Oh,
Have
absolutely.
you thought about, I mean, I know, for example, when I've traveled to other countries, there, people can sort of like adopt out, you know, dogs and cats and
Absolutely.
like, is that something that you're thinking about?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, I wanted to stress, we are modeling this after the Lanai Cat Sanctuary, which is very successful and has been in business for 15 years. And they took cats from Maui after the fire, and they're up to like 800 cats right now on about 4 acres. And so our model is there. It works. We know it works. And as far as adoption goes, what we plan to do is most of the cats we'll be taking in initially will be feral, will be scaredy cats, will not know humans. Some in the colonies that have caretakers are both kind of feral, but not quite so wary. So they'll become adoptable. They'll become lovable. And they can either be adopted in place, where you pay a monthly fee to help keep feeding them, whatever. Or if they're love buggy and somebody wants to take them home, of course, we'd be very happy for the right owner to adopt a cat. And that has been done. We're actually people are shipping cats to the mainland to be adopted there. So we're it's part of this multi-pronged approach to reduce the overall population of cats.
And then will you guys also be doing spay and neuter of all the cats?
Every minute. No, every cat will be spayed and neutered when they come in. Yeah, before they even get in the door. In fact, we're partnering with Stephanie Kendricks on the line. We've been partnering with Humane Society and with Anna from the the CEO of the Humane Society. We made an agreement that they would all be spay neutered before we would get them. And a lot of the cats already are, because a lot of the colonies are working every day. There are thousands of people that are working every day to help reduce the population by doing the TNR work, trap, neuter, release, and manage. Manage is the key. But the problem is we have nowhere else but to release them. So we need a home for them that some of them can be brought in.
Any other questions? I know that is it Steph?
Stephanie, yes.
Stephanie Kendrick?
Yes.
Is there anybody, Marigold, did you want to say anything?
Marigold Saul, I'm the Oahu branch manager with Division of Forestry and Wildlife, and I just wanted to be here to support this effort. I've been working with Popoki Place to try to find a location that's suitable, and you know, and advocating to Land Division that we would be happy to provide technical support on the education and the collaboration with them in order to benefit our protected species. So thank you for this consideration.
Thank you, Marigold, for being here. Okay,
I'd like to say something, but I think Stephanie is over there. She's
you
with the Humane Society. No,
Okay.
Stephanie Kendrick is
Okay.
available. I think she wants to talk.
Stephanie, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Aloha, Chair Chang, board members. I know you guys have had a really long day, so I won't take too much of your time. You have our testimony and strong support of this project and in granting Holly and Tom a right of entry for the property to begin that due diligence that I think we all hope is going to wind up producing a resource that will move us in the right direction on an issue that has in fact been very divisive in our community. Hawaiian Humane's been involved in free roaming cat management for decades. And we've struggled to make progress for a lot of reasons, but one of the missing pieces has certainly been a large scale, well-run sanctuary, and Holly and Tom and their board have put an enormous amount of work into making sure that they can pull that off with hopefully some state help in getting a location. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I really appreciate the board's consideration and your time, and I hope you'll move this forward.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Why don't you come on up? You can introduce yourself.
Hi there. My name is Michelle Opatek, and I am a cat colony caregiver, and I met Holly years ago. She is absolutely one of the hardest working women out there because you get the door slammed in your face so many times. The resources that she's been able to educate people with the reality that Lanai Cat Sanctuary is working. We need one here. I live in the Ala Moana area. There's so many people that feed them. There's so many visitors take pictures of them. I actually live next to the dog park, off-leash dog park, which the state HCDA paid almost well over $1 million for this small little area for dogs. Yet the cat colony caregivers and spay and neuter are always suffering. This would be an absolute asset to the community, to the tourists, to local people. We have a lot of transients that live here and they just dump the cat in the park. It's terrible. It's heartbreaking. The Humane Society is inundated with too many, and no one wants to see an injured one. So I believe with the training, it looks like that she's done with her husband and the other board members being able to find, you know, the vetting is a big deal. Absolutely. I think this woman is a winner. So I support it. I support it 100%.
She has
Thank you
been,
so much.
she's-
I know.
She's been persistent, she's been diligent.
Oh, I feel
I've
so
definitely
happy
been
being here.
persistent, haven't
Yeah,
I?
I know. For 2 years, we have been trying to work. And
Yes.
so I'm hoping, you're right, this
Thank
is,
you
this
so
may
much.
be
Yeah.
your unicorn.
Now,
also.
Senator Gabbard, I stopped by
Oh, yeah.
the Capitol the other day, and his assistant, I hope she's here somewhere. She said she was going to zoom in because she absolutely knows the senator is a cat lover. Scott Psyche, when he was in office, he was willing to help me, but he's not there. He's doing other things in Maui. We need this. We need this.
Well, he
Thank
did
you so
support, he
much.
did provide testimony.
Is there an estimate on what the population is?
You know, that number keeps jumping around from 300,000 to 1 million. I mean, it goes all over the map. I don't really think there's that many cats out there, or else we'd be all tripping over them at all times. But they do hide well. I do know for a fact that every year Cat Friends does, I think last year they spay neutered 6,000. So they've done about 35,000 in the last 5 or 6 years. But every cat that's fixed stops that progression out to hundreds from just one cat. So we're working diligently to get them all fixed. That's a key. That's going to help reduce. So then my goal, our goal with Popoki Place is we're going to have to start small. We can't start overnight and just take in millions of cats, you know, but we want to start small, get all of our systems in place, get everything going, get the funding coming in, get people to support us and understand the process. And then I hope to have at least 1,000 cats. And with this amount of land, and if the funding comes in, I can easily see it going to 5,000 if we can afford it. I mean, it's all about watching it grow and growing, growing, growing. But the thing is, with taking that amount of cats off the thing, we are literally working our way from the ocean in, you know, and from the mountains. Anybody who wants to, like the forestry people, see birds that are, you know, threatened. And if they have a cat up there, don't kill it, just bring it to us. We'll take it, you know. That's one way to help those people too.
Thank you. Yep. And if you can just make sure you're reaching out to the adjoining communities, because I think you've got next door, you've got some farmers.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Actually, immediately next door is the girls' home. And in my past life as the director of the Weinberg Village, Waimanalo Transitional Housing, I worked a lot with domestic violence and sex trafficking people. So I'm kind of looking forward to meeting them and partnering with them. And I think volunteering, the girls might want to volunteer at the cat sanctuary and have
healing.
a nice healing. Yes, exactly. And then the lady who's immediately in the middle of us, she's excited about it. She thinks it's great. And I'm like, wow, that's lucky. How do we luck out with that? Yeah. And so, of course, we're going to talk to everybody in the neighborhood. And we haven't been focusing our energy up there that much because we thought we would end up in Waimanalo where I was, but that hasn't happened. So now we'll focus more up in there. Yeah.
Any other questions? Is there anybody else here who would want to provide a public comment? Okay, I'm gonna
think they
close-
were.
no? Oh, yeah. I'm gonna close
while back.
public comments.
Okay.
And seeing no other testimony, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve staff recommendations needed.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made to approve staff's recommendation and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's call for the motion. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Motion passes with 6.
Finally, one step closer.
I know.
Yes. Public governor. All right, I will.
I'm sure I think he will be very pleased that we found
Something,
at least a path
something to
forward,
look
at least a
at.
path forward. I mean,
Okay.
I think he's, you know, so, yeah, no, all of us are very pleased.
Thank you for your support,
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Thank you.
We
Thank
really
you very
appreciate it.
much.
Keep up the good work. Keep
Thank
up
you
the
so
good
much.
work.
We will.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're
Thank you,
trying.
Eve.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.